Okay. Good evening. Thank you for coming. Okay. We have a very interesting shir tonight. Hopefully it'll come together as I teach it. There's a lot, so much here that I didn't learn. And I don't know if I'm ever going to get to learning it, but it's good. Okay, tonight's shir let's dedicate to the neshama of Baruch Tzvi. My son is named Baruch Tzvi after his grandfather's yahrzeit is tonight. Baruch Tzvi, Baruch Hersh, Ben, I think Avram Leib. On Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, I mean, I guess it's Yud Beis, I think, which was today. May his neshama have a great aliyah to the greatest of heights. Very good. Now we're ready to go. Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so in this week's parsha, it relates the passing of Yaakov and how they brought him up to Eretz Yisroel for his burial. Yaakov made sure that Yosef will be in charge. They'll bring him up to Eretz Yisroel. Then it says how there was a massive funeral. All the Egyptians came along. Not all the Egyptians, but a huge contingency of the royal house. They joined on this big funeral, and they came, it says over here, Pasuk says, V'chol beis v'yal Yosef ligberes aviv, Yosef went up to bury his father, v'yalu itoy kol avdei Paroi, and all the servants of Paroi went up with him, ziknei beisoi, the elders of his house, v'chol ziknei eretz Mitzrayim, and all the elders of the land of Egypt. V'chol beis Yosef, and all the household of Yosef, v'echav, and his brothers, v'beis aviv, and his father's house. Rak tapam utzoinom ubekaram azu be'eretz Goshen. Only their children, their sheep, they left over. The kids stayed back, and the sheep stayed back. It's interesting. It just occurred to me. It's when Paro doesn't want to let the Jews out. His last obstacle, his last refusing, or his last argument was, leave your children here and leave your animals here. So we know that the Yidden were able to go out of Mitzrayim and the merit of Yaakov going out of Mitzrayim. Yaakov went down and Yaakov went out. Similar to Sarah going down, Sarah coming out. Yaakov went down and he came out. But it's interesting. So when Yaakov went out, the children stayed and the animals stayed. Maybe that's why Paro kind of had that resistance, and he said, keep the children here and the animals here. First he said, keep the children here. Then after he broke on that, he said, but they'll take your animals stay. That was his last argument. And Moshe said, even one hoof will not stay. Because when Yaakov left, the children stayed back. Interesting. Maybe if the children and the animals would have come along then that would have hastened that they should be able to take it out fast. I don't know. I just found it, just thought of it right now when you see a certain parallel. And anyways, Vayal imoy gam rechev, they came up with him also rechev, which means chariots, gam proshim, also riders. It was a major parade. It was a funeral parade. V'hi machne kovid ma'oid, and the camp was very, very many. Vayavou, then Pasuk says, Vayavou, and they came ad Goren ha'atot. It describes a place that they came, and they stopped to eulogize. And which was the place they came to? The Goren, which means a threshing floor, a flat piece of land which they would use for threshing. When you stamp the grains and separate the kernels from the chaff. So you have a flat place, and then on there you take the animals, whatever it is, to trample it. And the trampling of it squeezes the kernels out of the thing. That's called a threshing floor. But this was a threshing floor of thorns. Now, why in the world are you going to use a threshing floor for thorns? You use it. So Rashi says it was a threshing floor surrounded by thorns. There was like brush all around it, and that's why it was called Goren, the threshing floor, Atad of thorns. Asher be'evra Yarden, that's on the other side of the Jordan. Vayispedu sham mispar gadol v'kavod me'od. And over there they eulogized him with a very great eulogy. And they did and over there, Vayas la'avel, L'Aviv Evel Shivas Yamim. It seems like even before they buried him, they mourned at the threshing floor of the thorns. They mourned over there for 7 days. And then it says, Vayar Yoshev Haaretz HaKnani Ese Evel Begoren Atad. Then the settlers of the Knanim, all the people who lived around, the whole neighborhood saw the great mourning that was taking place at the threshing floor of the thorns. Vayomru, and they said, Evel Kavod Zeh LeMitzrayim. This is a great sorrow for Egypt. Al Ken Kadosh Shmo Evel Mitzrayim. That's why they called that place the mourning of Egypt. Asher be'ever hayarden. So there's got to be obviously some big secret over here. Why everybody suddenly Yaakov's last time in this world before he goes into Aretz HaMachpelah is at this threshing floor of thorns, and that's where all the eulogies and the crying and the sadness for Yaakov takes place. So what's the mystery of a threshing floor of thorns? So as the Zohar asks the question, and the Zohar asks another interesting question. The Zohar is going to ask, number one, why is this important where they stopped? They went up. I mean, the Torah has to tell you exactly. It was a place called the threshing. I mean, let's say this was a nice open flat area, so they felt it was a good place to stop. But why would the Torah have to tell you where it is? Obviously, there's nothing the Torah is telling you just in vain. But the second thing is, why does it say when the Canaanim saw it, they said it's a mourning for Egypt? Well, it's not a mourning for Egypt. It's a mourning for the Jewish people. It should, so the Zohar says it should say Evel Yisroel, either meaning the Jewish people or meaning a mourning for Yaakov. I mean, Egyptians, I will see. The Zohar says on the one hand, the Egyptians felt Yaakov was a big blessing for them, to the point that they mourned when he died. But there's got to be more to it, that it's called an Evel for Mitzrayim. So the Zohar gives an answer, and there's a mimer from the Alter Rebbe, which he said in the year Tov Kuf Samaches, and it's printed in the Biurei Hazohar of his son, the Mittler Rebbe, which we're going to learn tonight, explaining this whole idea of Goren Otad. And just brief, for those who want the whole mimer in a nutshell, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain how Goren Otad is the final stage of Gevurahs. There's many, many levels of Gevurah. As Gevurah descends, powers of intensity. Gevurah doesn't mean bad. It's one of the Ebershter spheres, and the Rebbe is going to explain over here the source of life and the source of all goodness and all blessings. Most powerful blessings all come from Gevurah, all come from Yitzchak. But Gevurah, when it gets very, very low, can become not good. Can be the source of all problems, including Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim means constriction, which is a derivative of Gevurah. So the final lowest manifestation of Gevurahs, in a way which can feed into forces of darkness and evil and dark elements in the world, is this threshing field of thorns. And he's going to explain what does this do with threshing field of thorns, with this idea. And that's why this was the root of Golus Mitzrayim. That's why at this moment, by the funeral of Yaakov, it was the transitioning point from when the Jewish people were kind of the honorable citizens in Egypt, and now it was going to start declining. The Golus was going to start taking effect. Even though Yosef is still alive, and no one was going to outwardly, verbally assault Jewish people, or even verbally, but definitely not physically or anything like that. But the spiritual light of the Jewish people, the spiritual power of them, declined tremendously when Yaakov died, and that was felt already in Mitzrayim. So the Jewish people are no more untouchable. So the Golus is starting. Rashi says that's why, at the beginning of the parasha, Rashi says that's why there's no space between Vayechi and the previous parasha. When you look in a Sefer Torah, it's the only parasha in the Torah which is very hard to find where the beginning of the reading is. You have to look for a while. You see, it takes longer for the Balkorei to start reading Vayechi, because there's no space. It begins right in the middle without a new paragraph. And that's because it's called closed, because at that time the eyes of the Jewish people, once Yaakov passed away, the eyes of the Jewish peoples were closed from the tsaris, from the beginning of the troubles that started. So that's why it's at this point when the transitioning of geula, of life, when Jews are unconstricted or not exiled, transitioning into Gullus. The root of that is the Goren Atad, is this spiritual level called Goren Atad, which allows for the powers of Egypt to become dominant and powerful and be supreme over the Jewish people. And the Egyptians knew already in their mind that they're going to enslave the Jewish people, but as long as Yaakov was alive, it wasn't possible. And they felt the energy. The Zohar is going to explain that the Egyptians were very, very spiritual and tuned. So they can sense, as long as Yaakov was alive, that they don't even have an opening. They didn't have anywhere to get in, to tap in to that supremacy to be able to subdue the Jewish people. They didn't have it. And therefore they were wondering, how's this ever going to be that they're going to master Israel? They didn't see the opening. Now, by Yaakov's funeral, and they came to the Goren Atad, they smelled, here it is. And that's why they rejoiced, because they felt, here's their power. But then the neighbors looked at that place and they said, no, this is a big mourning for Egypt. Why is it a mourning for Egypt? Quite on the contrary, it should be a happiness for Egypt. Because ultimately, the enslavement of the Jewish people is going to kill Egypt itself. So even though temporarily it's going to be a superiority for them, it's going to be their power over the Jewish people, but had they not taken that position, had they declined, and had they done what they did by Goren Atad, actually, is they took all their crowns and they surrounded Yaakov's coffin. That's what Rashi says. They surrounded all the Egyptian princes, all put their crowns around him. Had they left it at that, which means in submission, they would have been the same like it's going to happen to the nations in the end of days, when the nations will be elevated to be part of the Mashiach, part of the Geula, where it says the kings will be your nurses and take care of your children and be your servants. When the nations of the world they would be elevated with the elevation of the Jewish people. But since they did not, they got excited about the threshing floor. In other words, they felt their empowerment to enslave them. Really, their enslavement of the Jewish people, in that very enslavement, they're going to drain their energy and all their power. In other words, it seems like they're getting power and enslaving them, but what's really happening is that this is only temporary, and really they're losing their power, draining and dying, literally dying, as they are enslaving the Jewish people. They're all the nitzutze kedusha, all the sparks of holiness that's in them are leaking out. And therefore, at the end, this is going to cause the demise of Egypt. It's going to cause the destruction of Egypt. And that's why, what is it really? It's Eivel Gadol L'Mitzrayim. It's a mourning for Egypt. So it's an interesting position. They're standing there, and they have now less than 210. Yaakov came down. From when Yaakov came down, it's 210. So you're talking about 17 years later. 200 minus 7 is what? 193. They're looking ahead of 193 years to come ahead of them. Basically a nice period, almost like the period of the United States of America already, like 200 years. It's a long period, it's not a short period of time. 193 years, and they're basically choosing to go down a road which temporarily is going to give them a lot of power, but it's going to be suicidal in the end. And they almost don't have free choice like in this. They feel they're being pulled. They're mourning their own inability to refrain from that temptation to be in power now and to enslave Israel, but that's almost like they have no choice. They're like going to choose to do that when they're going to mourn that very. Again, how conscious they were of it, I'm not sure. It doesn't say they called it Eivel Mitzrayim, but the surrounding nations who also sensed what's happening, said, hey, you guys, you're going to torment them, but you're going to bury yourself doing it. So this is really your own mourning. It's kind of interesting thing. That's what comes out from the Zohar in this whole story. Okay, so let's take a look. So he begins like this. Rabbi Yitzchak Pasach, this is the second Maimer in Biurei Hazohar in Parshas Vayechi. These are the Alter Rebbe's Maimarim written by the Mittler Rebbe with his explanation. The Tzemach Tzedek has the same Maimer, also in Sefer Biurei Hazohar, in his first chelik and second chelik. There's the first part is in chelik Aleph, the second part is in chelik Beis. And the Tzemach Tzedek learns it a little different. I didn't get a chance to learn it. I got very tired when I was doing it. But I looked a little bit, and he says his pshat. Then he brings my father-in-law. It's funny. He brings my father-in-law learns differently, the Mittler Rebbe. Then he explains it according to the Mittler Rebbe, and then he goes back to his own pshat. Interesting. But okay, let's go. Rabbi Yitzchak Pasach. No, generally they're following the same thing, but just a little bit in the middle they get. Rabbi Yitzchak Pasach. Rabbi Yitzchak begins. Vayavou ad Goren otad. First he's going to quote a passage of the Zohar. They came to the Goren, means the threshing field, ha'atad of the thorns. Uksiv, and it says, and by the way, I think, okay, this, we'll see at the end of the Maimer. I don't know if this is connected. I don't know if this can be connected today to today's days, because we're definitely holding at the end, and the final powers of Gevurah related to the thorn bushes. I was just thinking if this has anything to do with the fires that are in Australia, that are like such a strange, it's sad, so much life got lost, but it has to do with it's called bushfires. I wonder if these bushes are the same idea like these atad. It's very dry stuff. It's like almost like thorn bushes that they're burning. That's very interesting. If this is this fine, I don't know. I just had such a thought today, which Rabbi Yitzchak begins Vayavou ad Goren atad. And since Rabbi Yitzchak is talking about this, because Yitzchak is Gevurah, this makes sense to the Friediger Rebbe. The Rebbe's father would always darshan the names of those that are giving the Pirush. Rabbi Yitzchak Dafke is reading on this because this is the parsha of Gevurah, so it could be that's why it's Rabbi Yitzchak. The Chsiv Vayar Yoshev Aknani Ese'evel, that the Yoshev Aknani, the dwellers of the Canaanites that were sitting and saw the Avel, they saw the mourning, the Goren Otad, in the threshing floors of the thorns. Hani kroi islis takala behu. The Zohar says these psukim we have to look deeply into them. Islis takala, we have to really look deeper into it. Ma ichpeslan. Why do we care? The inun asu ad Goren otad. Why does the Torah have to tell us that they arrived to a place called Goren otad? What difference does it make what that place was called? My tam, and the second question is Evel Dal Mitzrayim Iskanas. Why is it referred to as an Evel Dal Mitzrayim? Why is this a mourning for Egypt? The Evel Yisroel mebayalei. This should be considered a mourning for Israel, for the Jewish people, or for Yisroel, for Yaakov. Elahacha Amri. This is what they said. So first the Zohar says the reason the Mitzrim took it as a personal thing is because they felt blessed by Yaakov. The Nilus beginne de Yaakov have enoughik, because the Nile River was pumping, rose up because of Yaakov. In other words, they saw the Nile, the blessing in the Nile since Yaakov Avinu came to Mitzrayim. There was an abundance of water because Egypt doesn't really get much rain, and their water source of irrigation is all from the Nile, and the Nile was blessed in the last 17 years. Va'ashka are, and it irrigated and it watered the land. V'izbarches, and it was blessed. Va'oid, and more, the pasak kafna beginne, that the famine stopped when Yaakov came. Yaakov came down after 2 years of the famine. Yosef predicted 7 years of plenty and 7 years of the famine. After 2 years, and Yaakov came down after 2 years, and the famine was over. Because Yaakov came, he canceled the last 5 years of the famine. So they all felt very indebted to Yaakov. Beginning de Yaakov, va'alda of the avelusa, and for this purpose, they made an avelus. That's what the Zohar says. V'iskanei olayu. And therefore, it's called on their name. It's their mourning. And then Pasach v'Yomar. Then he continues to say, it's so interesting. Oh, it is. Okay. I made a mistake. I didn't see Rabbi Yitzchak. I just thought Vayavou would learn another paragraph, but it's hidden at the end. Okay. Pasach v'Yomar mi yamalel Gevurah Hashem yashmua kol te'elasei. So then he continues. He says, the pasuk says, mi yamalel Gevurah Hashem, who simply meaning is, who can speak the Gevurah of Hashem, yashmia kol tehilasei. He should make heard, who can speak to Hashem's might, yashmia, to make, yashmia to be, make heard, to make people hear, kol tehilasei, all of his praise. The simple meaning of the pasuk is, who can speak all of God's might, and who can make one hear all of Hashem's praise? It's not possible. We can't. It's all. Right? That's the simple meaning. Okay. So the question over here is, the Zohar is asking, it's an interesting word, that the word yemalel, mi yemalel. Malel is Aramaic for speaking. We find it used in the Torah. It's not just in Targum. It's not just in... Every time it says Vayomer, I think the Targum is, or many times is Milel, Yamalel. So you find Milel for in Targum. But you have it in Chumash too. Sarah said, Mi Milel la Avram. Who spoke to Avram? Haniku banim Sarah, that Sarah is going to nurse children. Mi Milel. She uses the word Milel. You find... The word Mila comes from the word Mila, words. Mila means a word. Yemalel means to speak. But the Zohar is asking, if the Torah is using a word of Targum, there must be a reason for it. Usually the Torah speaks in Lashon HaKodesh. In Lashon HaKodesh, speech is either Diber, Ledaber, or Vayomer. How come over here, in this pasuk, Mi Yemalel Gevurah Hashem, it uses the word milel? That's the question. Ma yamalel yedaber meboyale. It should have said yedaber. Elohacha lachza mila kaasye. The Zohar says it's coming to show you a secret. It's not stop. The Torah is coming to show you a secret. Mi yamalel, because the word yamalel kidichsiv, like it says in the pasuk, V'kotafta melilois. The word Yemalel, he's associating with another word. What's the other word? There's a pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze that says when you come to your friends, when a worker is working in other person's fields, the halach is he's allowed to nibble. You're allowed to nash while you're eating. You're not allowed to prevent the worker from eating. While he is working, he's allowed to nash from the food that he's working with. The pasuk uses a term, v'kotafta melilois. You can snap off, you can break off melilois. Melilois are ears of grain. Not the best snack, because you're not eating kernels of grain, but okay. But why is it called melilois? Why is, unless the guy has someone walking with him with a little frying pan and give him some. But in any case, why is it called melilois? So Rashi says it's because you davar hanimlal miyad miyad. When you pick it off the ear of grain, like it has a few kernels on it, and it has like a chaff, a shell on it. And what you do is, I think this is even after you take out the kernel. I haven't looked carefully at a ear of grain to be able to tell you exactly, but it seems like there's the kernels, the wheat kernels that are inside, and then if you're going to eat the kernels, if you're going to make it into flour for sure, but if you're going to eat it as well as is, you rub it between your fingers, and as you rub it between your fingers, you soften it by removing the harder shell that's outside, and then the husk, and then it comes out. And that's called melilois. So the Zohar is saying, Mi Yamalel Gevurah Hashem doesn't only mean, the Zohar is not really explaining, but as the Maayon is going to explain what this means, it doesn't mean who's going to speak the Gevurah of Hashem, but who's going to soften the Gevurahs, because the Gevurah of Hashem is very intense. Mi Yamalel, who's going to soften these intense Gevurahs, because we don't want Chas v'Shalom to experience the intensity of the Eibishter's Gevurah. So Mi Yamalel, who can soften it? So there's a word from the Baal Shem Tov. There's a word from the Baal Shem Tov where the Baal Shem Tov says, quoting Kesser Shem Tov, he brings it over here in the bottom, that Mi Yamalel, if a person wants to be mamalel, wants to be mamtik, wants to sweeten Gevurah Hashem, the Gevurah of the Eibishter, Chas v'Shalom, a person feels that there is a certain Gevurah, a certain dinim, judgments upon them, or upon another person, or whatever it is, and you want to be mamtik Gevurahs, you want to sweeten judgments, the best thing to do, the Baal Shem Tov says, Yashmiya kol tehilasai, say all of Hashem's praises, which means say the whole book of Tehillim. It's a very big, say the entire book of Tehillim. It's a very big segula. People don't even realize it, how powerful it is. And some people said, I said some Tehillim. Nah, imagine if you feel something intense and you decide you're saying for 4, people have done it, I know, and I have big brachas. You say the entire Tehillim, let's say, for 40 days in a row, non-stop. Every day, the entire Tehillim. And that mamash sweetens the judgments, can take away a lot of harsh stuff. And the word to the Baal Shem. Again, the Baal Shem doesn't say 40 days, hopefully he can do it in one shot. Mi Yamalel, who wants to soften Gevurah Hashem, Lashon Milul, break it down, soften it, Gevurah Hashem, the Gevurah of the Eibishter, Yashmiya, you should hear Kol Tehillah, say all of his praise. So this is related to, the Baal Shem Tov's word is related to this Zohar. Because in this Zohar, he's teaching that the word Yamalel is related to V'katafta Melilois, that you're going to cut off Melilois, which are these ears of grain. And why is it called Melilois? Because you're rubbing it to soften it. And the same over here, you soften Gevurah Hashem. And so the Zohar explains, Gevurah Hashem begin the Sagyon. The Gevurah of the Eibishter is very, very massive. It's very great. Inun. And the Hakol Gezerah, the Dina, because every Chas v'Shalom, every Gzar Din, every judgment that there is in the world, any Gezerah, Mitaman Ka'asya, is obviously coming from Gevurah. And we can see sometimes that these, and they're just a little piece, these Gezerahs, if there's Chas v'Shalom, a big decree, which Chas v'Shalom, let's say, that happened already. The world has suffered some pretty serious decrees. But every single one of those massive decrees are just a little piece of the Gevurah. The Gevurah is infinitely bigger than that. It's just a little, it's mitaman ka'asya. It's coming from the place of Gevurah. Va'alda man ihu. So the question is, who is it? The Yisalik v'yaver gzeira chada. Who is it? The pasuk is saying, Mi Yamalel. Who is the one that can soften even just Gevurah Hashem, even one Gevurah coming from this source, which is the source of Gevurahs. Me'inon Gevurin the Avid Kutsha Berichu. From these Gevurahs that are coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Adkan. What does that mean? He's going to explain in the Maayon that even in Gevurah itself, everybody's familiar with the concept. We know that Rosh Hashanah is a day of judgment. But everybody knows it says that on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, it's called Dina Kashya. It's considered harsh judgment. Second day of Rosh Hashanah, it's called Dina Rafya. It's called a light judgment. That's what it says. Second day is much lighter than the first day. First day is very intense. What's the chiluk? So here in the Maayon he explains, he doesn't speak about it regarding Rosh Hashanah, but I would assume it relates to the same idea. He says, Dina Kashya means the dinim, the power of Gevurah, while it's still in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means while it's still in the masculine spheres. Even though the masculine level, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, higher than Malchus, the Ze'er Anpin, is primarily chesed. Malchus is constructed on Gevurah. The woman is more Gevuradig usually, and the man is more chesedic. So therefore, Ze'er Anpin is generally far more chesedic, and Malchus is more Gevurah. That's when we're looking at Ze'er Anpin in general. That in general, the power of Ze'er Anpin is mainly chesed and teferes. It's 6 spheres. Since there's chesed there and there's teferes, Avram and Yaakov, they overpower Yitzchak. So therefore, in general, the Ze'er Anpin is much more chesedic, and Malchus is more Gevurah. That's when we're looking at the general. But when we're zeroing into the Gevurah itself, the Gevurah that's in the Ze'er Anpin, the Gevurah that's in the masculine spheres, is infinitely more intense than the Gevurah that there is in Malchus. Malchus is already a watered down Gevurah, very, very much weaker, and therefore it's called Dina Rafia, soft Gevuras. You can say temper. Similarly, you can say, generally, a woman dealing with her children could be more likely to get nervous or get intense or get angry quicker. But her anger or her temperament very quickly wears off. It's like it can be intense for a few moments. The father is much less likely to get upset, but if he does get upset, the Gevurah is much harsher. That's just the way it is. So the male's Gevurah, as Gevurah, is very intense. It's just there's other powers as well. So what the pasuk is saying over here is that what the Zohar is saying is, he's going to explain it, is when the Gevuras are coming directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from Sfiras HaGevurah, from Pachad Yitzchak, from the powers of Yitzchak over there, they're infinite and so intense and so powerful. And you ask me, Yamalel, who can sweeten those judgments? Who can soften them? Once Gevurah comes down into Malchus, it is already very, very much reduced and much weaker and therefore not as threatening, as we'll see. So what does this all have to do? So the Zohar is going, because this is all an introduction to explain what does it mean, this Goren ha'atad. What is this thorn bush? We'll see. So what the Maayon is really going to do, it's going to map out the entire system of Gevurah. How it is in its higher levels, and how it is when it comes down lower, and how it is when it gets really, really low. It somehow comes out like this, then it's very high, it's very intense, and therefore potentially very dangerous, very high, but it's very, very, very hidden on that level. So it's not so, on the one hand, it's far more intense, but it's less likely that we will interact with it, because it's very inward still. It's going to explain like a person gets upset, and when they're upset inside of them, they have like 1,000 thoughts, and their thoughts are racing, and they have like, in other words, their Gevurah is exploding in 1,000,000 different thoughts that doesn't stop literally. It's like a pot bubbling. But when they'll actually talk it out, it'll be so much less. In other words, because that's the power of the mind to be able to restrain it, and it might never even come out. Even though up there it's like very, very intense, and then they'll just say something very short and much less. When it kind of comes to Dibor, which is Malchus, which is because it's like you get upset at someone, you think you're gonna do like 1,000, and then finally when it comes to action, you'll do something very little and small. And what happened with all that Gevurah? Because the Gevurah in the Moichen over there, it's very, very intense. That's what he's going to explain. So on the one hand, it's more dangerous because it has an intensity but it's on a very lofty level still. When it goes down to Malchus, it's where it becomes dangerous in the sense that the Gevuras are now being active, because from Malchus is speech, and speech is already running the world. From speech, when the king says something, it's like what the king is thinking if he's angry is more dangerous, because he can be so angry. But it's not going to affect you until he says something. So the speech is, once he said it, it's not going to return anymore. It's being sent out as we're going to see soon, as a decree, as an active force. But it's much less of like the possibilities that can be when he's angry in his head, when he's angry still inside of him. Okay, the Gevurah and Malchus is one thing, and then when it goes low, further downstream, further down to the executors, and it reaches all down, those that are going to actually, the police force, and those that are actually what we call shluchei hadin, those that are going to actually do it, it also becomes very dangerous, because these guys get, like, they go in a hand. They enjoy, they have a thrill in causing harm and pain, like right? These are the people, the executors of the din. So there's also very dangerous, as he's going to explain the various levels of Gevurah and how we can deal with it. So let's take a look. So the questions that the Baal HaMaimer asks, the emes is interesting. He's going to make far more reference to the continuation of the Zohar, but he didn't bring the whole Zohar. Maybe it's worth it quickly to first read the whole passage, so you'll get an overview of the whole passage, even though he doesn't say it inside over here, because he's going to make reference to it, and then we'll come back. So first he brings this idea that the Gevurah of the Eibishter is very intense, and therefore, because every Gevurah that comes from this level, which level are we talking about? The Gevurah of the Ze'er Anpin, the Gevurah while they're still in the level of pure Gevurah of the Ein Sof, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, higher than Malchus, where everything is still Ein Sof. Over there, the Gevurah is very intense. We're even all the big decrees that were really bad, meaning ultimately they come from that place, and there might just be a crumb of it, but yet it's coming from that place. So therefore, who can sweeten that? That was the question. So according to that Pirush, how did he read the word Yamalel? Yamalel means what? Soften. Who can rub it? Massage it. That's a good word. Who can massage the Gevurah to make it less intense? And then the Zohar continues, but Yamalel also means dibur. It also means speech. So that's another idea, and that is the idea that I mentioned earlier, that when the Gevurah descends from the emotion in the heart or in the mind to actually go into speech, to go into talking, automatically speech cannot handle. In other words, in every relationship, any relationship, if we would be exposed to the full Gevurah that there is in someone's head, then we would go nuts. We couldn't handle it at all. So, Baruch Hashem, there is a filter that people are not going to let. They get mad and they're screaming and they got 1,000 things in their head. But it won't be communicated, thank God, because no one could be married, no one can be in a relationship, no one can be in anything because it's just too intense. So only a little bit has to come out from the moichin. And that's the second meaning. Mi yamalel, who can speak Gevurah Hashem. The Gevurah Hashem are too intense that they cannot be brought down into Gevurah, into speech, into action. As it says, Vayedaber kulachad, Yedaber the Hakam, that's the second Pirush the Zohar says. The Hakam v'kamo Gevurah and Inun, the Leslon Chushbana. It's so intense, the Eibishter's capacity for Gevurah, that it has no chushban, it has no calculation. And therefore, kama mored dedinen, how many masters of judgment, kama mored treisen, how many other masters of treisen generally means those who hold arms, bear arms. Kama gardine nemusin, how many law enforcement, I think. Umelula la yachal malal aloin. And the mouth can't speak it. So that's a good thing, because Malchus cannot handle the intensity of the Moichin, so it actually remains up there in the Moichin, and only a little bit comes down into Malchus. He's still going to bring a fascinating Eitz Chaim for this descent, how Gevurahs descend, and how they are in one level, and then they become mamish minuscule in the next level, and how they drop and become less and less. Ubama Yidin. Okay. Ubama. I'm just going to read this part quickly because he's going to go back to this in the end. But let's Ubama Yidin. If they can't be spoken, so how do we know them? Ba'agoda. They can't come into speech, but they can come into Hagoda. So what does that mean? In Ashrei we say, Godol Hashem u'mehulol mi'od, the Eibishter is very great. Ugvurascha yagidu. No, what's the first one? No, wait, there's somewhere. Okay, no. Yagidu Yadaberu. 1 second. Yadaberu. No, Gurasa Yagidu. Yeah, the first one is Yagidu. Later is Yadaberu. First is Yagidu. Ugvurascha. Where is it? No, it doesn't say Gvurascha. Ugvuraisecha. Ugvuraisecha Yagidu. And then it says, later it says, hold on. It says again Gevurah. Ugvurascha Yedaberu. So the difference is Ugvurascha. The Zohar is explaining over here. Gvuraisecha is plural. It has a yud there. Gvuraisecha, your mights. So this is referring to Gevurah as it is in its infinite state, where it's Ein Sof potential. And on that level, as we said earlier, such intense Gevurah a person can't put into speech. You can only have it in thought. The mind can bubble and you have enough kalim in your brain to take all your upsetness and put it into like infinite combinations of letters of like what's going to happen. Boom, 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 how you're going to deal with the situation. So that in your mind, you have enough. That's the meaning Yagidu. Yagidu, he explains, is an inward, words that are still hidden. It's like a flow of words. Yedaberu, Gevurah, to be spoken, that's Ugvurascha, your Gevurah singular, and that's referring to the Gevurahs of Malchus. That's no more the Gevurahs of the Ze'er Anpin. That already could be spoken because it's reduced to be communicatable, to be speech, to be able to come into speech. B'raza da yadin. That's what it says over here. Again, b'ma yadion kula. Where can all the Gevurahs be known? Ba'agoda, in the level of thought, more in bina. The Ispar Raza de Chachmasa. Over there is the Bina still connected to Chachma, so it has the Bimelilu, because Bimelilu Ba'amira, because in speech and in words, Lo Yachul Lamala line, you can't speak them, Ulamindan line, and to know them. Avo Ba'agada, but in Agada, which is more thought, Yedion, they could be known. K'may d'chsiv, Dar le'da Yeshabach Masecha, Ugvuraisecha Yagidu. Yadin. On this secret, on this level, you can know the full Gevurah of the Eibishter. Translate that into something interesting. Yaakov is the Ze'er Anpin. Okay, really the Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yaakov has two wives, Leah and Rachel. So we know Leah, and both Leah and Rachel represent words, speech, because the woman is words. The woman is letters. She's the makabel, just like letters are. But Leah is thought, and Rachel is speech. So Leah is Haggadah, and Rachel is Dibur. Rachel is much a lower level, Malchus. Leah is Bina, the thought of the source of thought. So Leah can handle Yaakov's intensity. Rachel can only get very little because she's already in Olam HaDibur, world of speech. Avol Gevurascha, the Gevurah Tata, which is the lower Gevurah, Yedaberu, the Chsiv Gevurascha Yedaberu. Oh, that's what the Zohar says. Avol Gevurascha, listen to these words, the Gevurah Tata, which is the lower Gevurah. What's that? The Gevurah of Malchus, not the Gevurah of the Ze'er Anpin, which is very vast, But the Gevurah of Malchus, that Yedaberu, that can be. In other words, Mi Yamalel Gevuras Hashem. Who can speak the Gevuras of Havaya? Havaya is Ze'er Anpin. There the Gevurah is so vast and so great. Mi Yamalel. You can't have words that can hold that. And that's why it says Gevurascha, Gevuraisecha, which is that level. Only Yagidu. It can only come in thought. It can't come in Dibur. Later in Ashrei, where it's speaking already about Gevurascha, and that's why it's also another pasuk. The difference is it says in the pasuk also in Ashrei, Lo haidia livnei ha'adam Gevurosav, his Gevurah. So his Gevurah is called Gevurosav. That's on a much higher level of Gevurah, and because it's much higher level, it's infinitely stronger, and that can't be spoken. Gevurascha, your Gevurah is referring to what we can point our finger to, which is Malchus, because Malchus is in direct contact with the world. Malchus is Hashem's visible side, more interactive, which therefore we can say Gevurascha, your Gevurah. That Yedaberu could be spoken. Gevurascha Yedaberu. Okay, this I have to skip now because it's going to take us off. Tachazi, and then the Zohar says like this: if this is the case, Mitzra e kule chakim hava. Now the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, were all very wise. Umesitra de Gevurah kanafki. They too are rooted because they're Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim means constriction, which constrictions is all an element of Gevurah. So they came from the channel of Gevurah. But in general, most Klippa comes from the left side, from Gevurah. And therefore, Mesitra de Gevurah kanafki, kama chelin v'kama mashirian. So from Gevurah comes many armies. Mashirian means there are many camps. V'kama dargan al dargan, and there's many levels. Ad demoti legabe dargan tatan. Now there's so many levels of Gevurah until it can come down eventually to become a source to empower Egypt, to become negative Gevurahs as it gets down. Mitzrayim have a charashin. The Mitzrim were sorcerers. V'chakiman behu, and they had wise men, which means they were spiritually wise. V'yadin stimen da'alma, they knew the secrets of the world. V'istakali, and they were able to look, and they knew their source. They knew where they come from the Gevurahs. The bezimna de Yaakov kayim ba'alma, but they realized that as long as Yaakov is alive, loy is amma de shalta al benoy. There will not be any nation that will rule over his children. As he's going to explain in the Maimer why that is. That while Yaakov is alive, no one can dominate over the Jewish people. V'yadu, but they also knew doho yishtabdu beYisroel zimnen sagin, that there will be many times when the Jewish people will be persecuted and will be enslaved. So they had a little bit of a question because they saw Yaakov and they felt they didn't see an opening to it, as we mentioned earlier. Even the Miss Yaakov, when Yaakov passed away, chadu, they rejoiced. Because once Yaakov passed, he's going to explain in the Maimer what does that have to do with Yaakov's passing. Then they were able to see the Gevurahs already making its way down to a place where they can become very negative forces. That's what it means they saw what can be in the end. Adamatu, until the Gevurahs will come, Goren otad, all the way down to the level of the threshing floor of the thorns. These pokey thorns. The Iu Gezerah the Dina Shlita, which this is the level of, as he calls it, Gezeras. This is the decree of judgments that rule. A very dark place, full of judgments, which is the idea of Golos, with all of its decrees and all of its darkness. And he says an interesting thing. Atad, the Zohar now makes a gematria. Goren atad, the Goren of thorns. Atad is Aleph Tes Daled. Aleph Tes Daled is 14. Gematria Yad, it's the gematria of hand. This is the harsh hand. This is the hand that deals pain and suffering. Like it says by the Beis Hamikdash, what do we say? We're not able to go up. Because of the hand that was sent and burnt the Beis Hamikdash down. Which hand? This is this thorn hand. Gematria Ata. This, which is the root of the Golus. The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed through this hand. And it's the hand of the Eibishter, the left hand, but as it's manifesting Gevurah in a very harsh, it's the patching hand of Hashem, like in a very low place. Kamadat Omar Vayah Yisroel Sayod Agdoila. The Yidden saw the great hand. Kivan the Matal Asarda. When they came to this place, Chama Gevurah, they saw the powers of Gevurah. The Nafka Mehei Atad. So they're looking at these thorns, and they're seeing the powers of Gevurah. And what? Amai Ikru Atad. Why is it called Atad? Elamai Atad, just like a thorn bush. Nafke Kuvin Lahai Sitra V'Lahai Sitra. Thorns go out in all directions. So the same is also Hachanami Yad. When you see a hand also has fingers going out in all directions. What does that mean? When Yidden are in Golus, there is this decree, and there is that decree, and there is that decree, and there is that decree. Every decree is another slice of this harsh Gevurah. In other words, the hand itself without fingers is just a general power. You can't do something specific. In order for something to become specified, it needs the fingers. So all chas v'shalom, all the negative individual decrees that there are happening throughout the exile and all the problems are all because of the fingers in that left hand from the level of Atad, which is the hand, Atad is Yad, but the fingers of that. That's what it means, the thorns. Each one is another poke, another decree, another chas v'shalom negative thing that chas v'shalom could happen. So, and nafkemenei etzpon, the hands lahai sitra, and this is where they felt. Over here, they'll be able to poke them. Over here, and that's what you see. They made first a decree they should go work. Then they made another decree to kill the babies. Then they made them the power-headed bloodbath. And they had all these, and then they made another decree not to give them straw. Like decrees, these are all the fingers, a general power of Gevurah, which later translates into all the fingers. And in our 2,000-year history, we don't need to know all the women. We all know the chapters of darkness and suffering that the Jewish people had. The whole etzba, the etzba salik bekama gevurah, and every finger itself splinters into many gevurahs that there are. Bekama dinim, and many judgments, ubekama nemusin, and many different decrees. Kedein vayispedu sham mispargbad, and therefore they cried mispar gadol v'kavod ma'od. Now who cried? Al pi pashtus, the Yidden now. The Shvatim are seeing this, and that's why they're crying at this place, because they're now envisioning and seeing the great exile. But who's crying? Mitzrayim is crying. Al ken karishma oval Mitzrayim, the morning of Egypt. But really, this decree is only for Egypt and not to anybody else. The Zohar doesn't explain, leaves it by that. Because based on this, L'chor, if this is the hand of judgment, then it should be their joy. This is their power. That's why the Maayon is going to explain that ultimately their executing of this judgment is really going to be to their own downfall. They're going to bury themselves in this Indian, and they beheld that as well, or at least the Canaanim around that beheld them and said, "This is the morning of Egypt." Yeah. Okay. So now let's see inside. I'm going to go quick because most of the Maayon in general we discussed. The questions that the Rabbi Yitzchak, the Baal HaMaayon, are very strong. And both questions in the Zohar are one question. The question is this: why is this called the morning of Egypt? Number one, this was the Evel, the morning of the Jewish people. Or for Yaakov, also what he asks in the beginning. Why do we care that they came to Goren Atad? It's not just a question, why is it called Goren Atad? Why does the Torah have to tell us that they came to Goren Atad? It really means the second question. Because it seems to imply that because it was Goren Atad, that's why they called it Evel Mitzrayim. the morning of Egypt. Because you see, Vayishma Haknani, what's going on, or not Vayishma, they saw what's happening. Big, and the pasuk emphasizes again, big Goren Atad in Goren, and they called it Evel Mitzrayim. The mashma mazed, the masha moidia shabo at Goren Atad, this that he's notifying that they came to Goren Atad, the zeu atam atzmoi. This is the reason itself, lios nekreis Evel Mitzrayim dafka, that this is called Evel Mitzrayim, the morning of Egypt. Like it says in the end of the Zohar, the Goren Atad ze Evel Mitzrayim dafka. Like we just read in the end of the Maimer of the Zohar, that because they came, after he explains the whole idea of Goren Atad, he says, and that's why it's Evel, it's a mourning for Egypt. So he's coming to explain this idea. Well, in order to answer the question, Higdim b'pasuk, he first prefaces in the pasuk, Mi yamalel Gevurah Hashem, who can speak the Gevurah of Hashem, Hashem's might. He should have said, who can speak? What does it say? Yamalel. The Afalpi, the Yamalel Targum Yadaber, even though Yamalel is the translation, the Targum of Yadaber, Ukemoi Ruach Memalala, when the pasuk says that the Vayia Adam Lenefesh Chaya, which means a speaking person, the Targum says Leruach, a spirit Mamalala that talks. So l'chura you can say that's the translation. It's the same thing. He's coming to teach you a secret over here. It's coming to indicate the sweetening of the judgments. There's an avodah of sweetening. Yamalel means to sweeten the judgments. What does it mean, yamalel? You will cut off melilois, ears of grain. Piddish, now he explains, melilois, why are the shibulim? The shibulim are these ears of grain. Why are they called melilois? It's because the shiboles, which is the grains, have these kernels, mikubatzim harbe, there are many of them gathered together. Avol kashim hem, but they're very hard. While they're inside the shiboles, while they're inside the grain itself, grain stalk, they're very hard. They have to be softened in order to remove the heavy husk. Like it says in the Mishnah, you rub it with the tips of your fingers. Is the idea of this rubbing, to lamarik is to rub and to scrub biyad with your hands, to soften them from their hardness. When they're still attached to the stalk, they're very rigid, very hard. You soften it with your hand, you cause it to soften a little bit. How does it become soft? Through the rubbing it with your fingers. And then you bring out the taste, kind of softening it, and you can bring out a taste. When they're still in the shiboilas, there's no taste to them at all. Because they're too hard and too. Wheat that is rubbed with the hand, to soften them. The same will also be understood with Piddish Miyamalel, who will speak. It's like the Piddish of rubbing chitim, softening. Let's understand. How is it shaykh to talk about rubbing the Eibishter's Gevurahs in Yemalilosh in Yonarichuch, which is the softening? That's why he explains in the Zohar Tchila. First, we'll understand what does it mean Gevurah of Hashem, which we can talk about softening them. That's why the Zohar immediately explains Gevurah Hashem. What are we talking about? Gevurah Hashem. Begin the Sagyon Inun, because they are very great. Now, not most people, the simple meaning of the Zohar could be misleading. And you see that the Pirush over here, the one who made the Lashon HaKodesh, this is a Zohar with Lashon HaKodesh, and I'm not blaming him, but he translates the word Sagyon wrong, like he will explain over here. He teaches the word sagyon, which would generally seems to imply there are many. Sagion means a lot. But he says that then it should say sagion. It doesn't say sagion, it says sagyon. The difference between sagion and sagyon, sagion means many. Sagyon means big. It is great. Sagi koach, very great, very powerful. Immense. That's the idea of sagyon. So he's saying, Vehine loy amar sagion, it doesn't say sagion. Loshen riboy, which means many. Kamoisha amar besamuch. That's why you have to be very careful. The Zohar is very nuanced. And if you don't learn the Zohar with the right interpretations, like the Alter Rebbe is teaching it, you kind of just, read, but you're not really copying what he's saying. So later, Taka, when he's talking about the next level, when he's talking about, remember we said earlier about taking it from thought down into speech. Over there, in thought, it's many. It's like so many thoughts. Like you're upset at someone, you have like so many different thoughts. That's many. But here we're talking about the root of where even those thoughts come from the essential power of Gevurah, the intensity of the soul. It's a singular, essential inwardness that makes the Gevurah a very essential, intense sense of self, a very rich, powerful Gevurah, inwardness, which that power of Gevurah is sagyon, is very great. They are not the effect. There's two things. There's the Gevurah itself, and then it's its impact. When something is very big, it will produce, like a very big genius will produce many, many ideas. So many different, but it's all rooted in one big mind. There's a big mind behind it. Here also, there's a big Gevurah, which is going to produce a gazillion different Gevurah diga things. That's in between the word gadol and rav. Rav means many. Gadol means large. B'lashon HaKodesh. And that's when it's in Lashon HaKodesh. It's the difference of gadol and rav. Like we say, gadol Adonenu v'rav koach. Gadol Adonenu means he is essentially, our master is essentially big. Rav koach, because he's big, that's why he has so many powers to do so many things. So in Targum, hainu hafresh ben sagyon l'sagiun. Sagiun is related more to your action. Sagyon is to who you are. It's by oneself. Ki yadu, as it is known. Achine ksiv, he brings taka that pasuk. Gadol Adonenu v'rav koyach. What does that mean? Hashem is great and of much power. Gadol be'etzem umuhus. He is essentially great. V'rav b'pchenas ribu yischalkos. Because he is so great, there are so many expressions of powers emanating from him. Le'ein mispra, without an end. Ushneim yesh b'gvuras Hashem. And both these levels exist in the Eibishter's Gevurahs. The Sagyon Inun, they are essentially great. V'gam Sagion Inun, they're also many. As it says later. The Inyan, and the idea is, ki yadu, it is known, the B'chenes Gevurah is the Zah, Nikra Dina Kasha. So here he starts explaining the difference between the Gevurah as it is in the Zeir Anpin and the Gevurah as it is in Malchus. Zeir Anpin are the 6 masculine spheres, a far more inner level of the divine, and Malchus is already God's power to rule, and therefore his relationship already to the world, as a master, as a king over the world. So we know that the Gevurahs of the Zeir Anpin, Nikra Dina Kashya, are called harsh judgments. The Gevurahs, the Nukva, and the Gevurahs of Nukva, the Zah of the Zeir Anpin, Nikra Dina Rafia, they're called light judgments. And like this, like he says soon, explaining the pasuk Mashakasav Adam Gevurah, to notify to Libnei Adam, to people, Gevurah of Hashem's Gevurah, Shuhu B'chinas Gevurah Dizah, Gevurah, his Gevurah. So number one, the fact that it's talking about him in male, masculine, Gevurah, his, so that's already referring to him, to Zeir Anpin. Also the fact that we're dealing with someone who's not visible, because Malchus is more direct. Malchus is interacting with the world. Ze'er Anpin is above the world, higher, and therefore we speak about him, not in first person, in second person. So B'chinas Gevurah is the Zadavka. Al Gevurah is the Nukva, but the Gevurah is of Nikva Gevurah Secha, your Gevurahs. And Gevurah Secha can be both male and female, but because when you say your, in a sense, no, even Yodcha or Yodecha, Yodech. So Gevurah Sech can be read more, your Gevurah is female. We need to understand why are the Gevurahs of Zah, of the Ze'er Anpin, called harsh judgments? The words kashya over here, loshen tzimtzum amiti, doesn't mean the way that it means it's very harsh. Tzimtzum over here, a very real, a real constriction, a real rigidity. Like the latter mekubalim translated, dina kashya, means it's very harsh. Elapidish koishi zed, the Alter Rebbe says, it's not like they explain it. We're dealing with still a preliminary level. He's going to say later that pirush is also true, but that's already a consequence. The harsh judgments that are coming from it are already related to expressions of it. But there is something more core essential. There's something still more. There is something on a level far more preliminary, on a more inward level of Gevurah. So the Pirikushi is there. The Gevurahs are very intense for within themselves. It's called in Lashon HaKodesh, holding in the second column in the first page. You still have enough, you didn't miss too much. It's called B'Lashon HaKodesh Gevurahs. Shehu inyan tagburas koyach gadol, very intense. V'chazak b'ma'oid, very strong. At she'eng l'koyach zeh shiur, like this power doesn't have an end. V'alderech dimyan, give an example. Megvura anushis, from a human power, human strength. So what's the difference between an ordinary person? It's not a gibor. They have strength, whatever. They can push a box or two, depending on whatever. Then you have a real heavyweight champion, a guy who's got enormous power. So, what does that mean? That they have an inward, I mean, even when they're not using that power, it's just an inward, real, incredible strength. And that's why it's almost you challenge them, can you do this? Can you do this? Oh, even this. It's almost like, I mean, obviously there's a point where a human can't do, but, we can, when it comes to what most people could do, and then you give them up, and then it's almost hard to find, so what's their limit that they can do, right? Shekoyach hagibor chazak ma'oid, the power of the gibor is so strong, belishir, v'or v'chayis gadol ma'oid be'etzem u'muhus. Essentially, it's a very, very strong power. Masha enkin zulasai, which is another person, she'archi yusai katan, his physical strength, is small. U'metzumtzum b'muhusai. It's very, very constricted in its essence of what it can do. It's understood. The chol sha'or v'achayis b'toikev v'oiz gadol. The more powerful someone's Gevurah is, the more powerful his strength is. The more it can express itself in different expressions of Gevurah. That means that people that have a little strength only have a small range of things that they can do. Well, the fact that their strength is small, so then there is lesser things, a lesser circle of things that they can influence. If it's a bigger task that takes more energy and more power, you can't call them. People that have a greater Gevurah, physical strength, have a greater, like a circle around them of stuff you need. In other words, if you're sitting and you're thinking, who's going to help me move this refrigerator? Right? It's a massive fridge that needs, right? So then there are certain people whose strength is very small. So their refrigerator is outside of their circle. to help you lift a small, box of, I don't know what. They can, a box of water, okay, they can pick it up. But it's a massive thing. It's out. Now, a person who's really, really an amazing super person, so their radius of things that they can pick up and move and things is much larger, so their expressions of the Gevurah can, now when each time they're going to do something, they're not going to express their entire Gevurah. We're not talking about they're now standing at a championship of lifting the biggest weights. We're talking about their regular usage of the Gevurah is going to be in small pieces of what the Gevurah is. But the point is, the more powerful the Gevurah is in essence, the more behischalkus it can come into many, many different things. The same like a greater chacham can give you teachings and lessons in so many different subjects. And someone who's a smaller chacham can only teach in their field, their particular thing. The wiser they are, they can talk about every subject and in everything because their radius, their ability to ischalkus, to divide and to apply their seichel into such variation is much larger. But or you give an example. He gives a very physical example. If it's a very large barrel, lefi erech goydla, according to how big this barrel is, the more cups you can fill from it. If you're going to fill up with it, a small bottle like that, okay, 7 cups. And goodbye bottle. You have we have another one over there. Ari brought up there on Simchas Torah, one of those big, water tanks. Those water tanks you can fill. You need much more cups to finish it. How big the etzem is, so we turn over the page. So the many parts will be. The same as also in human strength. According to how big it is on its own, so it will be so many small parts until it will be divided without an end. When Shimshon HaGibor, it's like, wow, so many the Chalkus can come out into so many different individual expressions of that Gevurah. Now this can be applied obviously infinitely higher. Lamaskel begevurah is the Zeir Anpin, the Gevurah power of the Zeir Anpin. Shenikra Gevurah is Hashem. It's called the Gevurah of the Eibishter. The Haine Kamosha Kasav Upachad Yitzchak Hayali. The dread of Yitzchak was to me. Now over here we're not talking about Yitzchak fearing God. We're talking about Yitzchak as being one of the Eibishter's attributes. Yitzchak as a divine conduit, not Yitzchak as a human being. Yitzchak as his neshama as being a markava, or even derived from the Eibishter's power of Gevurah, which is a limitless power of Gevurah. These are the lights and the energies of the Zeir Anpin, from Gevurah, shenikra Pachad Yitzchak, which is called Pachad Yitzchak, the dread of Yitzchak. And these oiros and be'etzem b'pchenes taguburis oir v'koyach gadol b'ma'oid. These oiros are so intense, v'gadol koyach b'ma'oid, and so powerful, atche bilti efshe sheyuchel ha'makablim la'achilam klal, which the makablim, the recipients, are not able to receive them at all. U'kamosh HaKasav, as it says in the pasuk, shakai loy mitzanuhu, it's a pasuk in Eoiv, sagi koyach. So the different interpretations of this, but the one that seems to make the most sense regarding the mimer is I think the pirush of the Radak that I saw. Shakai loy mitzanu, even though Shakai loy mitzanu, we can't fathom you, because you yourself, we can't know, Sagi koyach, but we do see is that your power is immense. Sagi koyach, your power is, so there's the idea, the Eibishter's koyach, no one can intake the intensity of that Gevurah. That's why it's called harsh Gevurah, meaning it's infinitely intense. It's so intense. And therefore it can produce so many different expressions of Gevurah. Therefore, because Gadol, therefore Verav Koach, his power is so much. Because it's so great. Kanal b'mashal. V'zeu she'amar halalu keroiv gudloi, which is a little bit of a contradiction. What does it mean? Halalu, who praise him, keroiv, according to the many gudloi of his greatness. What kind of many greatness? It's such a funny word. The answer is because his gudloi is so great, it expresses itself in many, many great things that he does. Because he has one singular, indivisible, essential greatness, that's why when it shows itself in, oh, that was unbelievably great, and that was great, and that is great, and that's great. So it comes down in ribui, but the ribui is just an expression of a singular, indivisible power that is Ein Sof. And that's the idea. Now, the Mekubalim give a different Pirush in Dina Kasha. That what? The Dina Kasha means simply, don't mess with him. It's harsh judgments. It's punishments that are big. They're very intense. It's very, the dinim over here are already kashya. They're very rigid. Gamze emes. This is also true. Because the toikev and the ois, because the strength is so strong, he's so exalted, like the essential exaltedness of a king. When the king rises very much from within himself, suddenly everybody, in other words, when the king kind of is light and easy, in other words, he's not kind of tuning into his roimamos, to his greatness, he can smile, laugh, be very, very accessible and very open and very, but suddenly it can take just a split second where the king kind of returns into his true elevation, and suddenly everybody almost dies from dread. You can see that with the Rebbe. Like he can smile, and suddenly he's, whoa, like what happened? He's like, whoa, he's like on a whole roimumustige state, and suddenly there's no one that can step, and everybody is guilty in his eyes. Everybody is unworthy because of his sudden roimumus as he rises. That's what Gevurah is, a rising up within oneself. The dread of Yitzchak, like it says in this midah, that no one is righteous in his eyes. Even in the holy ones, even those that are so perfectly holy, lo yamen, he can't trust them. There's nothing in the world that can be good enough. That's why tzaddikim tremble, even though they're so good, but they tremble, because even the highest, purest avodah, on this level, where the Eibishter is in a state of Reimamus, it's all considered almost, sometimes we say even a sin. You could have done the greatest thing, but if you really realize who you're doing it for, no matter what you did is silly and lacking. For the true Reimamus of the king, it will not be Tichshar, will not be appropriate. Any action, even from his most trusted servants, and therefore there can come big harshments, big. It's called real din. That's when the Eibishter is operating from where? From his true greatness. That means the Eibishter is operating from the Ze'er Anpin. If Hashem lowers himself down into Malchus, and we're interacting with the level of Malchus, that's only a ray. Malchus Bichlal is a ray. So everything in Malchus is very, very reduced. It's almost like the emotions that are higher are coming into Malchus through a tiny keyhole. It's just a little bit minuscule. So therefore, even the Gevurahs are drastically reduced. When the Gevurahs, the Eibishter, emanate just ha'ara v'hamshachah l'b'chinas ha'malchus to malchus. Shu lamata hispashtis b'nivroim, which means the Eibishter is already relating to the creations. Nikradina rafia, then the judgment is called light. Why? Because it's lacking this infinite intensity. K'mo she'isbar b'samach b'pirush ugvurascha your Gevurah yidaberu. Lefi sheriboy u'makolshkin toikif ha'or the Gevuras Hashem shu b'china zada atzilus. Because why? Because if the Eibishter would not filter it down into Malchus, it would be impossible to relate to. In other words, if we were to be encounter the Gevurah as it is in Gevurah of Pachad Yitzchak, not through this very great filter and diminishment as it diminishes in Malchus, the world could not handle that toughness. It would just be too much to handle. We would be burnt up just this tiniest exposure to the Gevurah of Ze'er Anpin, not filtered through Malchus, would literally destroy everything, because the Eibishter couldn't be in a relationship, because nothing anybody could have ever done could be good enough in his eyes. He would criticize everything. Everything would be off. And therefore, to be we couldn't receive such demand. So now in order for the Eibishter's, now here's the thing. We're going to see later in the Maimer, we shouldn't look at Gevurah just as a negative thing. And say, okay, so the Gevurah is no good, so let's just shut down the Gevurah and work with Chesed. And Chesed, let the Chesed come, and Chesed is light, and so on and so forth. Chesed is too mellow. And the mellowness of Chesed we would be half alive if we would just be operating. Everybody would be like, It's Gevurah that causes. No, the Gevurah is what gives pumping energy into the world. Chayus comes from Gevurah. We need Gevurah. Gevurah is actually the intensity. If we wouldn't without Gevurah, our life source would be water. Imagine if our juice would be water. We would be fluid. Blood is what makes us alive. Blood makes us warm. Blood makes us in there. It's the intensity. You need intensity. Life is intensity. For Chayus from the Eibishter to come into the world is only through Gevurah. But the Gevurah needs to be tempered. It needs to be, because too harsh and too intense, as we're going to see. So there needs two things to sweeten these judgments. The shefa to come from Gevurah, you need two things. First of all, to turn down the volume in the Gevurah itself. In other words, in that very intense Gevurah, we need to soften that Gevurah. That's almost like changing the mood of the king himself in his inwardness. That's very ambitious to be able to do that. But yet, that's one avodah, to sweeten essentially the Gevurahs. There is another element of tempering judgments, is that not all the judgments that are going on in the Eibishter's mind should make its way into Dibur. In other words, I'm not sweetening the source, I'm not diminishing the source, but we're reducing the expressions. It's like you see with Moshe Rabbeinu, for instance. When Moshe Rabbeinu is arguing when the Eibishter is very upset after the Egel, you see he takes two tactics. Number one, he's arguing with the Eibishter that if you're going to kill them in one shot, it's going to be a Chilul Hashem. He's trying to stop the bleeding. In other words, he doesn't want that the Gevurahs that are there, the execution. In other words, he's challenging the execution of it. That the execution should come over 40 years. That's what he tells the Eibishter. Don't do it in one shot. So he's softening it. It should be meted out much weaker. Then later, he kind of changes the Eibishter's complete mood. He changes the whole Gevurah. And he becomes best friends with the Eibishter, and he on a level like we've never seen before. He somehow steals his way in and softens the whole. And that's we find that also in many times when in any relationship, you want to first soften the blow, and then you want to go deeper into the Baal HaGevurah, where the Gevurah is, and to mellow it out in a more pneumistic place. So that's what he's saying. When the Gevurah descends, two things have to happen. It has to mellow in its essence, and it also has to diminish in its descent into the execution state, where it's being delivered into practical as he says, they shouldn't be so strong. To diminish them, to make them much shorter, that the recipient should be able to receive that Gevurah. So when you want to sweeten them themselves, that's the first Pirush of the Zohar. By the way, we're learning this Maimer not just as a learning, but hopefully as a segula, that we should do by teaching this Maimer, we should do all the mituk of Gevurahs that need to happen. Like the Alter Rebbe said it must have been to sweeten the judgment, so it should happen now as well. That all the Gevurahs should mellow on all the various levels. Means to soften them, canal. It first means to soften the kernel itself. That's hard to soften it. In other words, to massage the Gevurah itself. Above, to make the Eibishter's Gevurah mellow. But how can you soften? So basically, to soften the Gevurah in its essence, you have to go very, very deep. He's going to explain you have to actually go even deeper than the emotion. You have to go into the intellect, change the thinking. And when you change the thinking, you can change the emotion that's triggering this intense Gevurah. To change it in its you have to switch the Eibishter's outlook, so to speak. In their very source. To truly sweeten a judgment, essentially, it's only in its source, in its root. That means you have to get into the Bina. We know that Chachma is on the right side, and Chachma is the source of Chesed, and Bina is the source of Gevurah. So we have to, in order to fix a Gevurah, you have to go into the Bina, which is the source of Gevurahs, and over there, change the Bina, which will change the Pachad Yitzchak that comes. B'chinas din and the Misarin, B'chinas Bina, which is Bina Datzilus. And that's called me. Bina is called me because 50. Bina is associated with the number 50. Chamishav Sharei Bina, 50 gates of Bina. So that's the idea. Me, Bina, which is 50, Yemalel can soften Gevurahs Hashem. Like it says another pasuk, it says, Mi beten me, from the stomach or from the womb of me, of Bina. It's something simply is Mi beten me, from whose stomach Yotza HaKerach HaNoira came out this great ice. But what is the deeper meaning? Not from who, but Mi beten me, from the womb of Bina, Yotza HaKerach comes this ice, which this ice is also a reference to this Gevurah. And it's called the awesome ice. V'nikra Eimei Ilah, it's called this because frozenness is the opposite of Chesed. Chesed it's flowing. And when the water gets icy, means it gets rigid and it's not being nishpa. I guess that's the reason why it's associated with Gevurah. So where is it coming from? Bina. V'nikra Eimei Ilah, Eim Habanim, the mother of the children. So how do you do it? The do it is known Sha'asimcha Shebebina Hu B'chinas Amtakas Adinim. The joy that's in Bina sweetens the judgments. So when you can bring Simcha by the Eibishter, you can change his mood. You bring Simcha, and Simcha is in Bina, Eim Abanim Simecha. Yeah, you can literally cause the king to laugh, and then it changes that whole intense mood, and everything changes. Just with one joke, or just with one thing that lightens the whole thing and changes the whole reality. It's amazing, and you see how we forget about these things when we're in situations when we need the Eibishter's, when we're experiencing judgments, we get so lost in the judgments and don't realize that if we just put on music and dance, we can change the whole mood at the very, very source. I'm just remembering because I was spoken in Florida 2 weeks ago, Yudtas Kislev, in Miami, and it was Yudtas Kislev, and I was also a little bit, under the influence of Yudtas Kislev and the mashka that I took, and it was a very intense talk, very big spashtos. I got a little overexcited. I don't even know what I said, but it was very intense. In any case, afterward, but I guess the people, it gave them a shot of adrenaline. It gave the people a shot. And so later when the music was, when they played, and they had really good musicians. They had a great band. And they started playing Chassidish and Nigunim. I don't know if I was just feeling it myself or I was sensing the energy in the crowd, but I sensed that people didn't dance like that in a very long time. It was something like Rachvas Amoichin, like Mashiach was very tangible and very real, and was like, come on, finally someone's saying it as it is. So there was like this Freilichkeit, this Simcha. And I didn't feel, maybe it was a combination of the mashka, I don't know, but I didn't feel such joy in a very long time. I felt so light, and I was dancing, it was like such a Simcha. And I felt like something like broke, like, and I don't know, when I was teaching the Maayon, when I was learning it today, I was reminded of that Simcha. And if you can only get, that's why Chassidim always knew the secret. You dance and you get the Simcha. Problem is that when you're in a constricted place because of a certain judgment, you can't bring yourself to this place. That's the catch-22. Is to be able to be besimcha, because when we're besimcha, it causes the Eibishter to be besimcha. So Simcha is mevatel dinim. It's such a powerful thing, because you always have people that are in really not good situations, and Simcha paired together. It also breaks it snaps that, it causes to snap out of those Gevurahs. The Eibishter also gets happy, and that's changing the root, the source from where all this Gevurahs and decrees. It's not only for one decree. It's like being that this is changing, mellowing the source. It's like can nullify millions of decrees in one shot. It can blow away like all the expressions of Gevurah just from one serious, but I mean to say one real simcha. ובכנס המתוקס הדינים שבמידו שנקרא זו, וזה הפירוש מי ימלל גבורוס. מי דבינה, the me of bina, ימלל, למלל לרחך, can soften למטה כדינים דזו, can sweeten the judgments of זו, וזה ודאר למייבן. That's the first inyan. That's changing the Gevurah in its source. Then the next level of change of sweetening judgments or diminishing judgments is to diminish it from manifesting and being actualized. But first the first thing. That's what the Zohar says. Gevuras Hashem the Sagion Inon, the Gevuras of the Eibishter that are great. L'tamanal, like we said earlier. The Holkol Gezeda the Dina Metaman Ase. What does the Zohar say? Because every judgment is only a little sliver of this Gevuras. Pidish Gezeru Chele Kotten Hanivdal Machalakim. You say, oh, that's an interesting thing people don't even realize. You say, oi, there is a terrible Gezerah. So what does Gezerah mean? Simply it means a terrible decree. Like people, sometimes you see certain things happen, you say it's a terrible Gezerah. It's a common thing that people say. Sad thing, like, I don't know, it's coming to my head. In the past summer, there was a lot of people that were drowning. It was a horrible period of time. Mamish, we're sure in a story. This past summer, it was crazy, one after another. There were like 7-8 stories of people. And then I remember the rabbis were coming out in New York that no one should go in water, or people shouldn't go in boats, people shouldn't go. Because so many stories of people, so you can sense that there's a decree. There's something that happened over here. And you have to, so what is the word gezerah? So gezerah means a slice. A slice of what? A slice of Gevurah. It says it's chelek cotton. It's a small chelek hanivdal machalakim gedolim from bigger parts. Kach shluchei adin lamata. The executors, those who get sent down, nimshachim l'roiv ma'oid. There can be many, many of them. But why is there so many? Because they're coming from Gevurahs of Avaya, Shebatzilas of Atzilas, Sheshamim Gedolim Be'etzem. Over there it's very, very big, which means very intense. That's why it's called harsh dinim. Because it's so great, kashya, in its essence, it can cause harsh expressions. Malachim anikram shluchei adin harbe. It can bring about many of these malachim that are the deliver, those who chas v'shalom deliver the negative stuff. Valderech mashal b'melech noira. So the greater the king is, Va'adir, a very powerful king, yesh lefanav harbe shluchei hadin, has in front of him many agents of judgments, la'ayim, to frighten a masay hagdoila, his great fear, mashenke b'melech katan, if he's a small king, heimenu, It's like the Iranians this week trying to stand up. You saw when Trump was giving his speech and he was flanked with all these guys. Every person that stood behind him was at least 6 foot tall. And these were these are the guys that run the entire U.S. military. All the B-52 bombers, all the F-5 planes, all the aircraft. And he was basically letting Iran know that, don't mess with me. And the reason he was flanked with all for optics. And they should see that we're dealing with the tough guy, and they know exactly who's who. So they should, why? The greater an empire is, the more powerful, he's basically saying, 52 places. In other words, I have the powers, and they're going to shoot their 15 missiles over there, and they send their flag. The greater the power, that's what he's saying. A melech gadol has so many channels, so many different abilities to be able to execute his judgment. A small king has less. So we're saying that because the Gevurahs are so great, that's why they're so various from the Eibishter, chas v'shalom, to come forth. Uman iyu diyasalik v'yar v'gzeira chada. So the Zohar is saying, who can remove one gezerah? Pidish mi yuchel lahamtik, who can sweeten shoyresh koyach hadin? He's saying, even if you're not mellowing the entire koyach hadin, but if you can even mellow just the source of one of these decrees, gam b'chinas koyach din echad, the power that's behind one jin, me'inin Gevurahs Hashem, from these Gevurahs Hashem, because each one of these Gevurahs is so great. We're soon going to see these Gevurahs that are on that level are called Shishim Giborim Savivla. Mi Biurei, Hine Mitase Shaloshloim Shloim Melech's bed has 60 Geborim, 60 mighty men surrounding him. These 60 are the powers of Gevurah as they are still in the Ze'er Anpin. And over here, each one of these Geborim translate into 600,000 powers of din to protect, right? Because there's so much. The only way you can sweeten it is mibchinas bina makar hamidas. So how can you sweeten it? You go up to bina, which is the source of the midas, and from there sweeten it. So what's the problem? Let's do it. The answer is most of the regular people, neshamis, are only from lower levels, from the Ze'er Anpin and from Malchus. And therefore, we can't activate Bina. So who is it? Only very big tzaddikim that have the abilities. Big tzaddikim, whose neshamis are from a very high place, are able to sweeten all the way up from Bina. The mother of the sons, that's where Simcha comes from, Kanal. Avol kol neshamis, that the problem is, einam el mebchinas yichud dezun bilvad. Most of the neshamas, kol neshamas, besides the very, very big neshamas, are all from a yichud of zuchra v'nukva, so their actions only affect malchus or ze'er anpin, but not higher. So in order to activate a mituk hadin, you need a neshama that comes from me, which is very high. Who is able to sweeten these judgments? And then the Zohar continues, the second pirush is that Yamalel and Yedaber and speech is really one. Yedaber da kama v'kama Gevurah in on the less line chushban. So the Zohar continues that what? There's many powers of Gevurah that have no chushban, that have no number. Kama mora de dinin, kama mora treisen, how many dinim, milula lo yachal amalaloin. And words can't express it. Ubema yidin, I'm going to read this quickly because I read it already earlier and then he's going to explain it. Ubema yidin kilu ba'agada, and how words can't contain it, but in Haggadah you could. The izbei raza the chachmasada b'melila b'amira lo yachal amalaloin lamindaloin, ava ba'agada, but in Haggadah yidiyun, it could be known. K'dechsiv doir l'doir ugvaresecha yagidu. Berazado yadin avol gvurascha the gvura tata, but the lower gevura yedaberu, that can be speaking. The tzivik zos daberu. What does that mean? So now he explains. Hine mavur lamayla. We explained earlier. Bepirish mi yamalel gevuros. Bekavanas hamaymer bechlal. In the general mimer that we said earlier. Shuinyanam takas adinim. We're talking about sweetening the judgments. Ach yesh b'zeh beis devarim. There's two ways in sweetening judgments. We're holding in the bottom of page Pei. Ha'echad lahamtikam be'etzem. One of them is to sweeten them essentially, as we said earlier, to mellow out the king. Number two, v'upirish yamalois lashem elilois chitim. And no, that's the first pirush. V'hu pirush yamalel. What does yamalel mean? Softening, like massaging it. Melilas chitim, rubbing the wheat. Shularachich, to soften canal. V'abeis, and the second one, ulekatzer ulamat oiram, to diminish them, to just filter them, to make them less. Shalo yumshechu kulam, that even if he's angry or upset or gevurah, but yet it shouldn't translate into action. This is the mimer over in the second one. Yamalal and speech is one Inyan. Not like the first Pirush. That melila means softening. No, melila means speaking. Who can speak these gevuras? What does that mean? Oilam hadibur, the world of speech, is not a keli to be able to take the vast, infinite intensity of the gevuras when they're coming still from in thought and in the emotion. Eliesh oit pirush kipshutoi shu inyan dibur mamish. It means literally speech. Ketargum vayadaber vayamalel v'kulachad. That's all one. Well, if he pirush that, we turn over the page to page 160. Kavan esafan apasik bo'ifenachar. The intention of the pasuk is different. Be'inyanam takasadinim in regarding to sweetening the judgments. In addition to sweetening them, essentially, that has to be just diminished. We have to break it down into crumbs. When they come down into speech. Which is Malchus Tatzilus. When it's coming down into Nukva, into Malchus, the feminine element of the Zeir Anpin. And as stated in Eitz Chaim, the P'chinas Gevurah is the Zeir Anpin, that the Gevurah of the Zeir Anpin is smatu, when they descend from the Zeir Anpin into Malchus, v'nasen hei Gevurah is bolvad benukva. They become only 5 Gevurahs. When they get down into Malchus, they become 5 Gevurahs. When they're higher, in the Zeir Anpin, there's 60 Gevurahs. 6-0. And the truth is, even higher, here he's not even talking about it. That's when they're in the Yesoid of Zeir Anpin. Zeir Anpin has 6 spheres. When they go down into the Yesoid, they become 60. When they're higher up, they're 120. Because Elokim has 120 tzirufim. There's 120 combinations you can make from the word Elokim. Those are the Gevurahs. When they're higher up, they're 120 Gevurahs. When they go down into Yesoid, they chop off half. They're only 60. When they're transmitted into Malchus, into the higher part of Malchus, into the head of Malchus, hear this. When they go into the head of Malchus, Malchus is, that's what it says in Eitz Chaim. When it goes into the head of Malchus, it's 30. Half, reduced by half. That's why we say, HaMalchus niknis b'shloishem milos. Malchus is acquired, it says in Pirkei Avos, with 30 milos. 30 milos of Gevurah. Because in Malchus, it's only 30. Half of 60, which is half of 120. You see the power of reduction. Then when it goes down from the head, from the das of Malchus, and it goes to the Yesoid of Malchus. Yesoid of Malchus is where it's going to be nishpa into the world. It's reduced by another half. It's chopped from 30 into 15. It becomes 15 Gevurahs. And then when from the Yesoid of Malchus it's going into Bria, meaning because Malchus we know is in Atzilus, and then Malchus descends into Bria, into Olam HaBria, for there to, it becomes from 15, 2/3 remain in Atzilus, only 5 come down, and that's the Hey Gevurahs. You know, Hoshana Rabbah we take and we smack 5 times to sweeten the 5 judgments. That's the reduction of the reduction of the reduction. And then you're down to 5, and then she's called Nara. Nara is Nar Hey. Hey is the Hey Gevurahs of Malchus. Nar Hey. She's a youth, much smaller. Nara, she becomes a young girl with only 5 Gevurahs. And that's the Naira. And that's where we interact with it. Only 5 Gevurahs. But it, Baruch Hashem, in the sense that it's weakened only to 5, because we would never be able to handle the intensity of the Gevurahs when they are still higher. As he explains over here. And this is what we say, Shishim Geboidim Savav Law B'Pchenes Makifim, in the levels of Makifim, Mi Biurei Yisroel. What did he say? Shishim Geboidim Savav Law Mi Biurei Yisroel. From the mighty ones of Yisroel. What's Yisroel? Yisroel is Ze'er Anpin. Yaakov is called Yisroel. Dele'ela V'chol Gevurah Mischalik L'Samach Riboy. And every one of these Gevurahs, each one of powers of these 60 Giborim, each one of them divides into 600,000. So it's 600,000 powers of Gevurah times 60. When it comes down into Malchus of Atzilus, Nismatin, they're reduced. It's only 5 Gevurahs. Now it becomes Nar, a youth, because Malchus, when it goes down into the lower world, is only called like a youth, because like a youngster is lacking the moichen, doesn't have the rich moichen. Malchus too loses the powerful moichen, the powerful, incredible, expansive truths that it was known in the higher world. Because if Malchus would know all that, it would never create such a minuscule world. So the power of Malchus become a youngster, but it becomes naira, because it also has the hey gevuros, and these are the power 5s. And these hey gevuros are, by the way, the power of the 5 Malchus' speech, words. And we know the words are rooted in 5 powers of speech, which are the 5 restraining powers of the 5 motzai sapeh. But you see how it becomes 5? It's really so much more when it's higher. It reduces. It's amazing. From 120 powers of Gevurah, from the terufim of the name of Elokim, it becomes 60 in the Yesod, in Yesod. From the 60 of Yesod, as is translated into Malchus, the head of Malchus, it becomes reduced by half. It becomes 30. From the head of Malchus going down to the Yesod of Malchus, it becomes 15, half. And from when it goes down into Bria, it's reduced from 15 to 5. And there's only 5 Gevurahs left. From the 60, and that's what he's saying over here. First, when they're in Atzilus, they're 15 powers. That's the idea of Yud-K. Yud-K is 15. That's why it says regarding to suffering. It says, Ashrei HaGever Asher Tiyasrenu Yud-K. So Yud-K is the power of Gevurah when it's still in Atzilus. But then when it goes down into lower, which is Chelik Revius, which 15 is only a quarter. Misamach Gevuros, from the 60 Gevuros, the Zah Belvad, when it's still in the level of Ze'er Anpin, where it was 60. Now it's only a quarter of that. Umismatin, and when it goes into Bria, it becomes less. Achem rak hey Gevuros. There are only 5 powers of Gevurah Bavad. Ayin Shom Barichos. Look at Eitz Chaim where he explains this. The 60, each one is equals 100,000. Each one becomes 600,000. So it becomes 60 times 600,000 powers of Gevurah that there are when it's still in Atzilus, when it's still in the levels of Ein Sof. And then, but when it translates down, it becomes so much less. And that's why it's a little problematic, because when the Eibishter looks at it, he says, I didn't give you guys anything. You'd imagine what was cooking up over here. I gave you nothing. And we claim, we say, this is so much. We want to sweeten the 5 judgments. It's like a person is very upset about somebody or something, and he says something a little harsh, and the person is a little upset that he said something a little harsh. He says, well, you know what I wanted to do to you. There's nothing what I did. It's like what I said in that little text or something is nothing. I reduced and reduced and reduced. But that's the way it is, depending on which end you're seeing it. Now he's going to explain. To understand this, we understand. Let's understand between the difference between Haggadah, where we say Haggadah could receive the full Gevurah. The Gevurahs of the Ze'er Anpin is containable or facilitatable in the level of Haggadah, but it can't come down in dibur. So he explains, in speech, you can't speak it. When is it known? So now he explains. From my flesh I see. We see by a person down below, the real upsetness and anger. It's interesting, it happens more in the mind than it happens in the emotion. The emotion comes from the seichel, in thought. Meaning, when a person hears something that goes against their thinking, sometimes in today's days, especially today's days, when people are so fired up about their opinions, and people are so emotionally right? So when you present an idea that goes against their whatever, get so angry and so upset, right? Get so mad. And the roges happens in thought. Basically, he says that, what happens? All of your capacity of thinking goes into simmering mode. That's what happens. He says, basically, your whole thought produces your whole manner, because a person has a lot of thoughts. Suddenly, it all gets into intense boiling mode. Valderech Dimyon, Medesichas Eish Kashmiz, says it's like when a kettle starts bubbling. Keshamayim Murtachim, when the water gets heated, Mene Eish, Shem Mizgabrim V'oilin, it becomes very intense. V'yardim V'mehirus V'gevurah Atzuma, it becomes very intense. Kamayayin Toises, like wine when it's simmering, Shenikar Resicha, it's also called. V'zeu Pidish Ketzef, like it says, Ki yatsa ha-ketzef, the anger went out, Maloshan HaKodesh. Ki ketzef ha'oila mebilbul ha'mayim, like the ketzef that goes when water is bubbling. The thoughts that are happening in a person's thoughts, nasa mirutachim, become cooked up. They become as gevuras atsumas, with very, very intense gevuras. Oilin v'yardim, they go up and down. Ki bilbul ha'mayim, like water that's in concentrated. Hamurtachim, that is cooking, from up down, it goes up and down and down and up. Of the heat of the fire. Like the eye sees. When a person hears something that's very against their will, immediately the letters of their thoughts go into chaos. You start thinking very, very quick. Like water that gets cooked up, to stop the thing that goes against you. Literally, the brain goes on fire. In the mind, in the upsetness. You're not going to put it into words, but it's happening in your mind. By me, my finger saves me. I bite my finger down and I let it in my head, and that's it. When a person decides to punish someone who deserves it, on his actions, first in the mind, it will become very enraged. The mind will be preoccupied in what I'm going to do. How am I going to get vengeance on so and so for what they did? Very angry. That's called bubbling. Just like when it's bubbling, it's going up and down. The idea is that the mind races very quickly. And it's basically like, in a sense, almost out of control. And you're coming up with all kinds of things of how you're going to punish so and so. And it's all in a very intense, that's the idea, it's intense. There's a lot of Gevurah there. So what's happening? The power of Gevurah has overtaken the person's mind. And the Eish, there's fire happening. But here's another beautiful thing. As the mind has that ability to cook and to get, and the Gevurah comes out in like a million thoughts, racing very intensely, the mind also has the ability, just to restrain it, not to allow it into the expression, to hold it back and stop it over there. And then you'll give it thought, and then you'll act after a thoughtfulness of how to how to punish, if he says if it needs to be a punishment or whatever it is, it will come out in something very, in something specific, and that specific thing can be way, way less than the initial thoughts that were enraged. Like everybody thought this week that there would be a mabul in the world, that Trump is going to get so mad at the chutzpah of them to send those 15 things. And you saw like in the morning, there was like a whole, and everybody's like, It didn't work out because they wanted him to go crazy so that they could say that he's an erratic, crazy man, but it didn't work out. It didn't work out. So, but in any case, in agam shekol ikar gvuras alalu, all these intense gevuras, nimshachem and aseichel, she'ein a soivel adavar, the seichel can't stand it. You see a complete opposite. The seichel is also able to yizboil, it's able to tolerate it, but won't speak. Even if a person gets very angry, they will control it in their heart. I mean, there are people who can't control. So if you can't control, that's what he says later as a child. So then it will immediately go into speech, and when it goes into speech, then you always regret it, because then you end up doing things that don't make any sense. So then, and that's why if a person has some self-control, then they don't do it. Even if there's a storm, literally a dark storm in their brain, they'll allow the Gevurahs to subside, and only take a little bit of it and allow that to move forward into the realm of speech and action. They will not reveal it. Because a person realizes it's not good to reveal the anger as it is now, because it's now out of control. Even if the person is worthy for a punishment, it hasn't yet been decided. It's just like a million types of punishments that are coming up in the mind. And even if you decided that, they need to be punished, you can't yet reveal it. Because from speech, it will come to action. And then for action, you might regret it. Maybe you'll later find some kind of a merit. Maybe even if you won't find a merit, maybe it won't look good for people. Everybody else will criticize it because everybody else will see that the person is innocent or whatever. It's like, maybe or for other reasons. So there are other calculations saying this is not right, it's not good if I will do that, even though I feel that right now this is what I want to do. So the mind is able to control the intense gevurahs, and eventually it will release only a small percentage of that intensity to move forward into the practical state of behavior. We see the intense gevurah of the seichel. They get held back in the seichel, in the intellect and in the thought. The yizbala maseichel, and the seichel can hold them back. Gam kain bigvura. It's an enormous strength of restraint. Here Gevurah is acting the other way. There the Gevurah is throwing the person into total turmoil, into craziness, into all kinds of thoughts. And here the Gevurah is acting as a restraining power to hold it back. For who Gevurah is koyach ha-seichel. This is the Gevurah that there is in the power of the seichel. Shadei because a fool, or a tinnik, or a child, lo yuchel ha'akiv, immediately goes into expression. V'la'atzor, and he can't hold back, malahoitzi kase, begilui, to let it out. The Biurei into speech. And anger is in the lap of fools. Because in order for the speech should come to speech, it would be interesting if it would be but he says dibur, I don't want to fix it. When the speech will come to speech, it needs to be reduced. Kol tagburis adin va'akas. The intensity of the judgment and the anger that's in the thought has to be mellowed. Ki bedibur, because in speech, lo yaveh will not come el achazman, after time passes. Acha yishuv das, after the das will kick in. the calming of the mind. Harbe b'masay, you take time. It's interesting. Some in Baruch Hasidus it says that when you allow the anger into speech, the speech itself will intensify it. So I guess it's two things. Here we're talking about mindful speech after you decide to talk, as opposed to when you are you have an anger and then you forgot about it and then you start talking about it, it'll like rearrange it and actually will make it even more. That is also true. But we're talking about a process of bringing something out in a mindful way. Then it has to work through this process. The intensity of the roiges will not come as it is literally in thought. So we see from here that the speech will only allow a sliver, a small little part, what has arisen in thought, in the judgments. It's understood. So here's another thing. It's understood that even though the hispilus of thought is easier, meaning it happens quicker, and it's because it's unfiltered, it's your natural reaction. But in thought, it will also be hidden. So there's two things. On the one hand, it's very intense, but when it's in thought, it's easier still to pull back, because the mind has, once you put it into speech, it's not going back anymore. That's the thing. It's executed, it's out, and then you have to deal with the mess, because once you said it, you said it. So it's more begiloi. It's much less for the reason. But they're revealed, and once they're in speech, there's no stopping of it. Built in netzarim, it can't be stopped anymore, because then you can sit and apologize, but it's not anymore. Once it's put out there. But even that little bit, and even the little bit that comes is not as intense as it was. That even the little bit that comes is lacking the heat. It's lacking the punch, like it was when that little was in the mind. Because once it's coming in speech, there's more das, that weighs the words in judgment, haseichel of the mind, not to reveal the upsetness, because of the various different reasons that have reduced it, which the mind that are fitting in the person's intellect of why it's not good for me now to let the whole rage go out. So all this is all a mashal as it applies above as well. Yuv and Lamaska Lamai will be understood to those who understand above Shadaw Hefrish. This is the difference between the harsh judgments and the more lighter judgments. The harsh judgments in the 50 gates of Bina, that is translated, the Bina created them. It's the first initial, it's like we said earlier, when you read something that is opposing your whole thing, you get very angry. You heard that so-and-so said so-and-so, it gets you angry, right? So it inflames you. You get so mad, how can he said so? How can he have done so? And so on. So that's because of your Bina. Your Bina perception creates the dinim. You can't tolerate in your mind instantly dinin judgments ukpeidos harbe ma'oid, and many kepedos are grudges or whatever, or upsetness. B'machshava shenikra Leah. So in Leah, on the level of Leah, it's very intense. At shenikra ketzef. On that level, it's called an anger. Al derech mashal hanel, like we said earlier, b'machshava sa'oilin v'yordin, and it becomes literally a firestorm. A blazing fire. It becomes from the element of fire. Now we know Chachma is the source of Maayon and Gevurah is the source of Eish. So basically, Gevurah lets out a fire, and it's an infinite fire. They call the Gevurahs of the Eibishter. They're in a massive inferno, very intense, very strong. When they come down below, then they become shluchim of judgment, chas v'shalom. But not the whole power of din comes down, filters through into execution. Once it's going into Rachel, it's already far more controlled. As it is known. Like Chazal say, liba lepuma loigalia, that the heart does not reveal it to the mouth. When it comes to the mouth, to expression, the heart is not allowing it to, or the mind is controlling the heart from pouring the lava out into the mouth. Reduce the light, the power of the Gevurah v'adinim shebeseichel u'machshava, and the judgments that are in seichel u'machshava, in the intellect and in the thought. Shrei yisapek, because you'll be controlled miledaber, from to speak. Gam sheyirgois harbe beseichel u'machshava kanal, even if you're very angry in one's mind and in one's thoughts. V'gam b'ma'at hanimshach mehem b'dibur, and even in the little bit that comes in speech, einam ba'am el b'pchenes hamtaka, they're already much weaker. They're far sweetened. Neishah hamadibur. Why? Because here's the thing. When it's in your inner world, it's not hurting anybody. Once it's going to go out, it's outside of you. So then the consequences are much, much larger. So therefore, one has to be much more careful when it's moving out into the... It's like we say, Bechlal in Torah mitzvahs. The ikr thing is machshava dibur ma'isa, not what you're feeling. That's why Torah is not concerned so much what you're feeling. Torah is concerned with what you behave, because behavior affects the outside, affects the world. And the same is with the Eibishter's behavior. His behavior will affect the fact that he has intense Gevurahs above is not as troublesome as the Gevurah when it will come down into action. Will come to action. Once it comes into dibur, because sometimes you decide that you're going to be very harsh with somebody, and then when you start being that, suddenly you can change it and it becomes with compassion. When it comes to the practical and to the actual, the whole thing can change. And then you come back, someone tells you, especially when you're dealing with someone, you should go speak to someone and tell them, and then you come and say that. But I told you that. You know how it is. I wanted to, I should have. Right? So then it changed. Suddenly, like the whole thing took a whole different turn. That the Eibishter also rethought the bad. The Gevurahs that are in the female level, in Malchus, B'Shem Dina Rafir, they're light. They're already much more reduced. The Gam Ma'at, and that's why it makes sense. Rosh Hashanah, the first day, it's still taking place in a more inward state. Second day, it's already coming out more into practical, the more outer part of the Eibishter, more in, and therefore, it's already, by its very nature, softer than it was the day before. It's much less, but nation is matim, because they're reduced. When it comes to speech, and this is what it's mentioned in Eitz Chaim. There are 60 giborim surrounding her. So here he doesn't explain so much, but I looked it up in Eitz Chaim. The mita of Shloima, the bed of Shloima, that's Malchus. Shloim is Melech. So the bed of Shloim is related to Malchus. Shishim, now Malchus stands opposite Zeir Anpin. She's the Makabel from Zeir Anpin. So the Shishim Giborim of Zeir Anpin, Saviv Law, are protecting Malchus. Migiboirei Yisroel. Giboirei Yisroel means it's from the Gevurahs of the Zeir Anpin, which are very intense. Yeah. The whole Riboy Gevurahs the Zah, but so there it says in Eitz Chaim that all these Shishim Giborim, all these multitudes of Gevurahs of the Zeir Anpin, Mismatin, become diminished, b'miyot achamiyot, less and less, atshan einon elo b'chinas hei Gevurahs, till it goes down to becoming 5. Bovad, b'voyam leb'chinas hanukva. Okay, there in Eitz Chaim it says when they come down to Malchus, but when, again, Malchus itself, there's 3 stages. On the highest levels of Malchus, it's 30. And the lower level of Malchus, it's 15. And when Malchus goes down into Bria, it's 5. And that's the letter Hey that's in the Nair. This is the Hey Achroin. That means even in the king, as he's beginning to execute, it also goes through a level of reduction. And when it comes to the Poyal Mamish, it's much, much less than even he planned on doing. as it reduces. This is the latter hay of Shem Havaya, which is the hay Gevurah of Nukva. But in Zah and Zeir Anpin, the Gevurahs are multitudes. In general, they're called 60 mighty men, Yisroel. More specifically, Rabim Heima, they are so much, Le'ein Shir, without an end. Nun Shari Bina, because the 50 gates of Bina, which are the source of these 5 powers of Gevurah, 50 is 5, they go down in Zeir Anpin. Kenoida, the Bina is the mother of the children. Ad Hoid is Pashtas. Bina goes down till Hoid. So, Chesed, Gevurah, Tferes, Netzach, Hoid. 5. So, and that's 50 Shari Bina, I guess 10 in each. V'nun Shari Bina, Kol Echad ve'echad Kol Mehei Gevurahs Te'ema. And the 50 gates of Bina, each one has the 5 Gevurahs of Bina. V'chol Gevurah Mischalik, so you have 5 times 50, which is 250. And every Gevurah, Mischalik L'samach Riboy, and every one of these Gevurah is 250, divides itself into 600,000 Gevurahs. Yeah. It's all in the level of intellect. HaMeir b'mido is that shining in the midah shebelev. When it gets to speech, miskatzrin, it is diminished. It's only 5. Because the supernal speech is malchus shenema by devar melech shiltain. Vahu ama v'lo yaseh, he says and he won't do. Al kein tzarech liyos sham b'chinas kitzer gadol. There has to be a great reduction. Mikol adinim, from all the judgments. V'gam oisa ma'at yaveh sham b'am taka yoser. And even the little bit should come much less. Kanal b'mashal b'arichos. V'nim tzomuvim b'mashal anel. It's understood from that mashal. The din and shebezah afal pisha nikra din and kashya. The din and the Zeir Anpin, even though they're called harsh judgments, nikra pachad yitzchak, called the dread of yitzchak, kanal. Makom, as I said in the beginning of the class, gevoyim har b'mebchinas adinim shebemalchus. They're much higher in the sense that they're not yet on a level of doing anything. I mean, it's on the one hand dangerous judgments, but on the other hand, it's still too deep in the Eibishter's heart from actually having an actual impact on the world. That's why they can't all come into speech. They get stopped in the seichel. Okay, let's quickly do till the bottom over here, and we'll take a break. V'zau inyan, meaning the end of this page. It's be very quick. V'zau inyan ahafresh bein haggadah ledibur. That's the difference between. We said earlier that haggadah in haggadah it can be received, but not in dibur. So what's the difference? Your Gevurahs yagidu, they will relate. Ba'agada yediyun, in agada it is known. Ba'amira lo yachlin l'malaloy, in speech you can't speak them. Avalu gvurascha yedaberu, in Piddish. Ki b'chinas Gevurahs dezanik v'Gevurahs, they're called your Gevurahs lashon rabim, many. Lefisha rabim hinei ma'oy, there's so much because the source is so intense. It, as we said earlier, a big barrel comes into many different. We said earlier, but in your riboy hakpedus b'machshav, and that's what you see in the thought. It like becomes when a person is upset. It can be 1,000. It could be a torrential thoughts like no end. Because there's so much. First of all, that they're so intense and there's so many. You need 2 things. We said earlier, you need to sweeten them essentially. The first pirush meant to soften them. What we said earlier, that you have to reduce them, or liskatzer, and to shorten them. They shouldn't all come into speech canal. So now that's the difference between Haggadah and Dibur. Haggadah means a flow. Nahar dinar, like Chazal used the term, a river, a fire, nogid, flows, v'nafik, goes out. It makes sense because we're talking about a fire over here. So a river of fire. Every time we say yagid, it means to draw. Like we say, upi yagid tihilasecha. My mouth will draw down your praises. Now Haggadah means silently. Chashai. Dibur is loud. Haggadah is silent. Benachasu, and quieter. Kamoi, like Hamshachas Meinar, like a river. Sharolchem benachas, most of the time. A river in spring, it can be very intense, but generally the river flows calmly. V'chein pirish haggadah b'lashon hakodesh. So is the word haggadah in lashon hakodesh. Hu hamshacha b'chashai. It's drawing quietly. What does that mean? So it means, even though we're talking about something very intense, it's quiet because it's still inside of you. It's not being heard outside. It's when your ideas are flowing only in your thoughts. It's a silent flow. And concealed. Even when you're very angry, it's not noisy because it's taking place inside of you. It's still within. And even to yourself, because you didn't do anything, you didn't say it, you're not even, you know you're upset, but you're not seeing the thoughts as each thought as something. It's just, it's benign within yourself. That's why he says by the Gevurahs of the Eibishter, the Gevurahs of the Zeirampin, which are drawn from the Gevurahs of the 50 gates of Bina. That's called the river that goes out of Eden. It's a silent flow, and in a concealed state. Because when it's coming to revealed in speech, this great river is not able to come into speech because they're so intense, or because there's so much. As we explained, in speech you can't say them. But then the Zohar says, but the Gevurah that is in Malchus, not the Gevurah in the Zeir Anpin, which is much higher, the Gevurah that's in Malchus, Gevurascha, that Yedaberu, that can be contained already in speech. That's the Gevurah says already trickled into Malchus, which is already, as we said earlier, reduced by half till it becomes 5 Gevurahs, and those 5 Gevurahs are already sweetened. They're able to be contained by words. Pedish Gevurah Tata and Epchunas Gevurah Shebenukva Deza. The Gevurahs are She'enan Elo B'chinas Hey Gevurahs Bavad. Only 5. V'yishen Esmatu Kol HaGevurahs Deza. They became so diminished. V'leinim Shchurak Hey Gevurahs. Only 5 Bavad Metam as we spoke earlier. That little bit of din Yachalav B'dibur can come to speech B'izgalus in a revealed way. V'gam Zois, and also this B'pnei She'ein Shabam B'chinas Amtaka Yisroel. And even these 5 are not just 5 out of the many intense ones. These 5 themselves are mellowed. Keniskali Al V'dai L'Mevin. V'zel Klolos in Yizah Maimed is the general Maimer. And now we're going to understand the details of what we just said. So this is what the Zohar is saying. He's just translating now the words of the Zohar. Mi Yamala V'Yedaber Kulachad. Yamalal and speech is one. Pirish Melila Zois Pchenes Hadiburu is speech. Meisha Bedibur Mismatin Kol HaGevurahs Kanal. All the Gevurahs become reduced. Umefarer Zeh Inyan, and he explains it. Do Kama V'Kama Gevurah and Inun. So the Zohar goes on to say, because there's so many Gevurahs. The Leislein Chushpana, there's no end to it. Pirish Kol HaGevurahs means, we said earlier, the intensity that can create non-end thoughts. Ki Kol HaGevurahs Shebezanim Shachem Ehei Gevurahs Te'ema. Since the Gevurahs of Zohar coming from the 5 Gevurahs of the mother of Bina, which is really kind of infinite. Shebenun Shari Bina Canal. The Alkei Mischalken Le'ein Shir. They're divided without an end. V'kasha Yordan Lamata B'Bria. When they go down in the world of Bria, Nikra Mara Dedinun, they become masters of judgment, Mara Tresun, masters of whatever, arms, of Malule, but you can't, therefore you can't speak him. Metam Mashal Anal. We said, because the world could not facilitate this. Because he spoke and he said, because once he says, it will happen, and it's too much. V'gam lo'oitzem tagbirusam, lo'oitzem ribuyam, because they're too intense. Lo'yechulam b'chenes adibur klal, the speech cannot handle it. El b'ma yidun, where is it known? Kulu ba'agada, in Haggadah, which is the Isparaz of the Chachmasa, it's still connected to Chachma. In other words, in thought, it's still connected to Chachma. Chachma is still a level which is very expansive. Pirish B'chinas Chachma Shemeir B'bina, Chachma that's shining in Bina V'asag. V'nikra Raza the Chachma, the secret of Chachma, V'sham, and over there, Kasha Nimshach B'amshachas Oisis B'machshava, the letters of thought, Nikra Haggadah, it's called Haggadah Kenes Kaliyah. V'aderech Mashal Adam Sheyesapir V'yagid. Now, but it says that the Malachim, but here's the question. It says the Malachim Ugverascha Yagidu. So the Malachim are in Olam Abriya. So how are they exposed to this? This is not even being revealed in Malchus. So how are the Malachim in Olam Abriya relating Yagidu? How can they relate or think these Gevurahs? And the answer is, they estimate it. They don't have a real, since even in Atzilus, it's only in Machshava, it's not in Dibur. So when it is revealed to the Malachim, they too can only yagidu, they can only think about it, but they can't speak about it. They can't be magalit because it's Yedaberu is only something that's in Malchus revealed. They can also be Yedaberu. Something like that he says over here. That's what I understood. Adam, like a person, sheyesapir v'yagid davar ma sheshama. He can relate something that he heard. Sheshameya v'loy ra hadavar klaf. He didn't see it. She'ein hadavar ahu nitzves. So that thing is not grasped. He's only estimating it. He doesn't really know it well. The malachim of Bria, misaprim gevuras Hashem da'atzilos anel. They speak about this immense gevurah. Rak b'derech hasaga shalahem bebina. They speak about it in a manner of bina. Avo b'dibur lo yachal lamal aloim. But they can't really articulate it. They can't, because it's hidden from them, because it's not spoken from above. Dibur would have been full as galus. The lower levels of Gevurah, that the Malachim are able to speak. Yedaberu mamish, they can literally speak. That's really revealed to them. Gamkein. Because the Gevurahs of Malchus, that translates into literal actions of the Eibishter, and there they can see God's power and Hashem's omnipotence. Mamish, b'malachim, they can see the Eibishter's power in the angels, v'neshamas, and in the souls, the biyav, bria, tzir, and asiyah, ki yadua behei gevurah is Hashem elikim, that's the power that gives everything. According to the simple meaning, who's able to draw them down in speech? Who can bring it? It can't. And since neshamis are only from Malchus, so we don't have the kelim to be able to experience the full power of the Eibishter's Gevurahs as they are in Atzilus. It's beyond us. Okay. What I'm going to do actually is the next piece is a little piece that I didn't understand well, and I don't want to krich there, because I think it's just going to confuse us for a while. I think we've had the general understanding of the idea, and I want to start with the next piece, Tachazi. The next piece is going to explain the whole idea of what has to, as this translates further down into the Gevurahs. How does Mitzrayim get in here? Where do they nash from these Gevurahs? And why did they get excited when Yaakov passed away? And what's this whole idea of the thorn bush of Goren? And now he's going to translate the whole mimer into a much lower level, as these Gevurahs descend further down, until it can become a source for harsh Gevurahs that are in the world, and how that's the next 2 pages, which we're going to do Bez Hashem in about an hour. We don't need more than that, Bez Hashem. Now we take a small little break. Chaim. It is recorded, but I go away from the mic so that no one knows what I talk about. She cuts it out. Why? Okay, Gevurah, let's continue. Oy. By the way, in the next little piece, he seems to be saying that even when, because the pasuk says, "Mi yamalel Gevurah Hashem yashmiya kol tilosoi," which he says that even when the Gevurahs come into Malchus, the higher level of Malchus receives them, and maybe it's connected to what we said before, that in the higher level of Malchus, there's also a lot of Gevurah. It's 30, and then it gets reduced to 15, and then it gets reduced to 5. Maybe it's relating to that. So therefore, even in Malchus, on the level of Machshava in Malchus, and thought in Malchus, there too the Gevurahs is many. And therefore, Mi Yamala Gevurah Hashem Yashmiya, that can make be heard, Kol Tulase, all the praise. Praise is referring to the Malchus. Malchus is called praise, but it's the inner world of Malchus. And over there too, the Gevurahs are in 2 and 10s. Only in the level of Dibur, which is Malchus going outward, Malchus that is relating lower, there it is containable for the creation, for the world. Okay. We're going to the bottom of page 162. Tochazi. Remember I said that the Egyptians, they were all very smart. Kilin Chakim and Heva, they were all very smart. The Mesita, the Gevurah Kanafki. They came from the side of Gevurah, the Zohar says. So he's going to begin to explain over here, what does it mean that the Mitzrim come from the side of Gevurah? So I'm skipping the actual words of the Zohar because I read it earlier. I'm just going to read the words of the Maimer. So in order that we can make this quicker. Hine lohav in Masha Amar, to understand this, that it says in the Zohar, the Mesitra, the Gevurah Kanafki. So that's the second column on page 162. This, that it says the Mesitra, the Gevurah Kanafki, they come from the side of Gevurah, Kamachelin, and the side of Gevurah comes many, many armies. Hulataritz is coming to answer the question, Eich nimtzam elamayla shayrish chayas, How can it come from above the root of the chayos, of life, of energy, l'chatume Mitzrayim, to the sorcerers of Egypt? Shemekablim, they receive me'eses spherois de klipos. They receive their vitality from the 10 spherois of the klipos. Higdim, from this 10 spherois that translate, everything comes from Kedusha, but then it becomes 10 spherois of Klippa. So how does the Klippa receive? Higdim va'amar, and that's where he says, Meshum de Mesitra, the Gevurah, because from the side of Gevurah, Kanafki, they come from. What does that mean? Well, to understand this, Yesh lahagdim, we need a preface, B'shoirish, B'chenes Gevurah Sal Yonis. So let's understand something about Gevurah. The name of Ulamai, that is explained earlier, Be'etzem, B'chenes Gevurah Sal Yonis. That the essential Gevurah is the supernal Gevurah Shem B'chenes Oir Chazak V'takif Ma'oid. It's a very intense light. Because it's so strong and so intense. That's why it has to splinter. It has to come, and it has to become many, many details. It's basically going to say that from intensity comes when it bursts. It bursts into small little things. Is going to give an example from rain. Rain is not just a flow of water. Because it's coming from a very intense kindness, it comes drop, 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 drop. So the more intense something is, it doesn't flow in like one pour, one continuous flow. It comes in bits. Because it doesn't rank. Because Gevurah is so intense, it can't, so therefore it holds back. And when it goes, it gives like, and that's every type of Gevurah comes that way. That because Gadol Adonenu, Rav Koyach. Rav means a lot. It's the greatness of the essence, that brings to many divisions. And according to how great something is in its essence. This itself causes that the oil should be divided from one chelik l'chalakim ktanim harbe to many small pieces. And each one of the small ones yischalak l'harbe chalakim should further divide into smaller chalakim. That's a power of Gevurah. Chesed doesn't do that. Chesed is just a continuous flow. But this that it comes. V'zeu ata, it says in the pasuk. V'zeu ata pirarita. It's a pasuk in Tehillim. You pirarita comes from the word crumbs. Pirurim means crumbs. Ba'azcha, with your strength, you took the sea, and your pirarita, you turn it into crumbs. You crumb the sea with your strength, with your might. Pirish pireres lipirurim. This that you can crumb it to crumbs. The chalakim ketana beyoyse, very small pits. All comes from one in Yisha Gevurah. Because they're such kifus, they become mischalik. Because they're so intense, it divides from small little pits cut until the tiniest crumb. And that's why crumbs, which is what the klippas have, crumbs, really is rooted. The fact that godliness can become so minuscule and so tiny that it can become a chas v'shalom, a power of klipa, is also rooted in the powers of Gevurahs, because after the intensity because from chesed will come only larger flows of life, because it's lacking intensity. But because Gevurah is so intense, when it comes out in, what do you call spigots? I don't know, what's a spigot or something else? I'm looking for a word. Like, it spurts. It comes in spurts, and the spurts are what divide. And eventually it gets divided as it goes all the way down. It becomes these little powers of energy that could become chas v'shalom already misused. You take a look and you see what fire does. When fire heats up something, it breaks it down to all the tiniest particles. Fire causes something to decompose. Sometimes fire actually causes something to harden, but many times fire causes something to get loose and disconnected. All the pieces separates. Fire separates things. Because it's so intense, so it breaks things down. We can see this from the might of rain. Shatam shenekru Gevurah is keshamim. The reason why it's called Gevurah of rain, Yadua is known, because it descends with might. Kanidali ain, like it's seen by the eye. Shagesham babatakbur is gedola. That rain comes when it's like, first of all, when it rains, when it's really raining, you hear thunder and lightning and like you feel the Gevurah, you feel the might, you feel the intensity in the ear on a downpour. And then when it comes, what happens? It comes little drops. And because the light, what's happening? When it's raining, ultimately it's an expression of Hashem's hashpah. Hashem is giving. It's chesed, it's kindness. Because rain comes from God's kindness. But in the kindness itself, it's from the fire element of the kindness, not from the water element of the kindness. Because we know that in chesed is Gevurah shebechesed. Rain comes from, not from chesed shebechesed, rain comes from Gevurah shebechesed. Because the light and the flow that comes from the water that's coming from the clouds, that's what gets dark. Gevurah is dark. Suddenly it's raining, it's supposed to be the ultimate kindness. Why is it dark? Because it's the Gevurah of chesed. Because water is rooted in chesed. The teva ha-Gevurah and the nature of Gevurah love betagburah is gedola, to come with might, l'kach yardim b'Gevurah. That's where you get a downpour, where the water is like, and that's why there's a certain discomfort when you get caught in a downpour, because you feel the Gevurah, even though it's not bad Gevurahs, but you feel Gevurah, and that's what. And that's the reason why the waters of the clouds get divided into tipin, small drops, dakim, very small, verabim kolkach, and they're called Gevurah. Where do we speak about rain? In the second bracha. The first bracha is chesed, second bracha is Gevurah. Atagibar, because you need the Gevurah to create that thing. Who gave, the pasuk says in Eov, who gave the dark clouds a way? The way is the way it splinters into the channels. That every drop, they don't touch each other. Every drop comes down and Hashem makes them come down. Why? Because be'etzem, rain is life. It's the Eibishter's life. But it has to come down in such minuscule, tiny little, because we can't receive life if it would become as is. So the earth has to get it just in spurts. So the Gevurah, the intensity of it, causes it to give, but give only and it fires like a firing thing. And he says, interesting, dew also comes down like that, which I would think dew is just a wetness, like more of a chesed thing. But he gives a proof that dew also comes down. The way it comes down is that it moistens everything, as opposed to shabab is chalkos. I don't know exactly what he means. It comes division, the whole prate chelkei aretz dafke, to all the parts of the land. Like it's understood from the story of Gideon. Benisoya and Safel. When Gideon went out to war, Gideon was a general from the Shoftim. Mentioned actually this week in the parasha, that when Yaakov says that Ephraim is greater than Menashe, because Ephraim is, Yeshua ben Nun comes from Ephraim, and Gideon comes from Menashe. So who's Gideon? Gideon is a general. Now Gideon went to fight the wars. He asked God for a sign. He said, I'm going to put out a piece of material outside. I'm going to put it out. And if I see tomorrow morning that this piece of material that I put outside is wet, but there's no dew anywhere else, the earth all around it, the grass all around it is dry, and all the moisture is just in this carpet, in this piece of material that I put out, then I know that you're going to send the Yeshua for the Jewish people. I guess it means then you're concentrating the Yeshua. I guess he said that's the Gevurah. So, but usually the waters are spread out everywhere. It comes everywhere. Yeah. But he said, but if you're going to give us the dew differently, that it should come only here. And in the morning it happened, he picked up the cloth, and everywhere else was dry, and he was able to squeeze buckets of water out from this one cloth. So the Eibishter showed him a sign, but he wasn't satisfied. And the next night, he made the sign the opposite. He said, I'm going to put out the Shmata again, or a different one. And this time, I want everywhere else to be wet, and my Shmata should be dry. Okay? He wasn't going to go stick his neck out until he really knew that the Eibishter was backing him. Isn't that cool? So that's what happened. The next day, everywhere was wet, and his thing was dry. And he knew it can go. That's the sign that it says. They give them a citizen. But what do you see? He's proving from here that generally the dew spreads everywhere. This pirud from the Gevurois, who are machayel in himself rabbi ma'od. This pirud causes that there should be such vast variety of life. Because the Eibishter, here we're talking about once the Eibishter is giving to the world, he's giving rain and rain splits, but it's in general. The fact that there is a gazillion different creatures and different things is because Hashem's flow of energy gets splintered into small little pieces, and that's because it's coming from Gevurah. The Eibishter didn't just create a world, he intensely creates the world with an intensity. So all shefa comes from the Gevurahs being splintered, dafka. Because Gevurah, who makoira amiti, the real makar, l'chol hamshachas ha'or v'chayos, to all the hamshacha of light and chayos. Kamoy ha'mazayin, like we know food, for instance. Shashar shaynimshach mebchenes ha'gevurah kidu. Parnasa comes from Gevurah, not from chesed. That's why it says when you're davening for parnasa, you should tilt a little bit to the north. When you're davening for Shemona Esrei, and if you want parnasa, you want to be rich, you should daven Shemona Esrei to the east, turn slightly north. North is Gevurah side. If you want to be wise, wisdom, so then you should daven Shemona Esrei to the east, tilt a little bit to the south. South is where Chachma comes from, and Chachma is Chesed, and wealth comes a little bit from. It says also from the pasuk. It says Mitzafon from the north. Zahav Ya'asa, gold comes from the north. So the wealth comes a little bit from the north, from the Gevurah. We also know the Shulchan. He's going to bring it soon. The table, which represents Parnasa in the Beis Hamikdash, was on the northern side, and the menorah was in the Darei. So, but the Shulchan was in the north. Mazayin, Parnasa. Why? Because it's Hashpah from above. Life comes in a manner of Gevurah. Kiyidua be'in Shulchan b'tzafay. V'chein agshamim sheyarden be'Gevurah. Hare nikra gishmei bracha. They're called blessings of rains of blessings. Legadol kol tevua opedos min haaretz. To cause everything to grow. And we see this also mechayas hanefesh. I gave the example earlier that life doesn't come from the water, it comes from the blood. And blood is Gevurah, it's red, it's intense. And that's what gives you life. Dafka the blood. It's the Gevurah that enlivens you. Dam comes from Gevurah. It's a physical manifestation of spiritual Gevurah is our blood. And without blood, we're not alive. All the chayas of the limbs is dafka from the Gevurah. Because the water that's in the blood, that what liquefies it, which is the water, needs to be there. But he says the problem that a person actually has when they're not healthy is that the water is too much in the blood. The blood needs to be more blood than water. Meaning, because the water, it's the element of water shebedam betaruvis, which is mixed into it, as it is known in the books of medicine, is not life-giving to the body. The watery element that's too much water in the blood causes all the illnesses, all the sicknesses. All illnesses that is related to blood not being good comes from the blood maybe being, I don't know. Again, I'm not sure what he's referring to, but that's what he says. It's like, it reminds me of the story of the Chassid who went to, when he was talking about a recent Chassid, not a a long time ago Chassid, but just passed away, I think, like 10 years. I forgot, who was it? No. Itkin. Maayon Itkin. So he, when he was old, he had got pneumonia, which is water in the lungs. So he said, he regretted, because he said that's from the 4%. Because when he would drink a lot of vodka by the Fabrengens all the time. And Brock's is 96% alcohol, 96, and there's 4% water. So he said, he knew. It's the 4% of the water, that's why he has water in his lungs. Without the water, he would be okay. And if you think about it, vodka is fire. It's a liquid, but it's a fire liquid. It's not a alcohol is a fire liquid. Right? You're drinking fire when you're drinking alcohol, meaning you're drinking Aish. Huh? I'm not telling you it's healthy, but I'm just telling you that obviously a little bit is healthy. The problem is from the 4%, from the little bit of water that's there. Not in the blood itself. The soul enlivens, and that's through the Gevurah. Okay. The shoyrish in the root is because the Eibishter is so intense. That's why he wants to enliven everybody, because the Chayas is so intense. So it has so much energy. Comes a makar for every hashpah. More than the mellow energy of chesed. And the blood is the soul. Rain is called blessings. And the same do. So the same is also in the supernal Gevurah above. The Atzilus of Atzilus. They're very intense lights. Bekoyach v'or gadol, they have a very great light. V'alkein ha'shulchan b'tzafon, that's why the shulchan, the table, is in the south, in the north. Take a look at this. What's going to cause the dead to be resurrected? That's going to take an immense power to wake up the dead people. That the dead are also going to come alive. Why? The Eibishter is going to release the makar of Gevurahs. What's that? That's called Tala de Belucha. It's called crystal dew. That's the root of Gevurah that's suddenly going to manifest. And it's going to be so intense, life is going to be so intense that even dead people are going to have to respond. That's the idea. Even they're going to, something's going on. Even the dead are going to, wow. They're going to be moved by it. These are the Gevurahs of the dew, of the level of dulcha, which I think means crystal dew. The alken yeh by koyach, it has the koyach lahachyois gam guf choimer gashmi, even a corporal body that died already. Because it's so intense, that's also the reason why when it's so intense, it has to break into small pieces. Whatever is not so intense, does not divide into small pieces. The Gevurahs of Atzilus comes down to such tiny crumbs. This is the reason why when alive and even a very physical body. Because it's so intense, its light can descend so dark, even to earth that was a body that decomposed, to re-enliven it. After this introduction, we'll understand you will we'll also understand this, that it means that from the side of Gevurah comes out many armies. And until finally it goes down to Chas v'Shalom, become the source of these very low levels, which is the threshing, the thorn bush that's on the threshing floor, where they had the funeral of Yaakov. How can there be a source and a chayas eliki lemitzias as a spheres the klipa to the 10 spheres of klipa the asiya of the world of asiya? Shachatumim the Mitzrayim kiblu mehem, that the sorcerers of Egypt received from them, and he says, because of the powerful lights of Atzilus, because it's so powerful, give the Vayet so much. Because this is the main enlivener, as we said before. Once it splinters its energy into tiny little parts, which eventually evolve, cause and effect, which means like this. Each level is a crumb from what was before. But then that crumb itself splinters into many crumbs, and then each crumb becomes a splintering into many crumbs. It has that intensity as it goes further, and then in the end it splinters into like really these little last points of energy that become related to the 10 spheres of Klippa, and that's where Mitzrayim gets its strength. To many parts. It divides from level to level. Dargan al dargan, levels upon levels. Matzilus labria, from Matzilus to Bria, Mabria liyatzira, from Bria to Yetzira. Achab chenes agvuras to kedusha da'olam Yetzira, until these powerful gevuras of the world of Yetzira, chenes tzimtzumim le'ein shir, have already tzimtzumim that without an end. Sham nimtza gam kain makar lemetzias esespheres the klipas noiga. That already in Yetzira it becomes a source to the existence of the 10 spheres of klipas noiga the Yetzira. Lahachyes oisam, to enliven them, gam came ha'ayin layesh, from nothing to something. Achshem mekablam rak b'chenes chitzonius. But what are they receiving? They're receiving just the external, upsailes, and the dregs, hagvuris the kedusha, of the powerful gevuris of holiness. Sheba'olam ha'yetzira, that's in the world of Yetzira. Dainu derech b'chenes hatzipernayim. That's the idea that in the end of the fingers, on the left, there is the nails, and from the nails, that's where the klippas receive their energy. So the 10 spheres of Yetzira, these are the fingers of Yetzira. From the very ends of that, that's where the klippas, that's why the nails, we know, are always, we have to be very careful with the nails. That's why under the nails gets dirty. Gevurah the nukva the Yetzira, from the Gevuras of nukva, of Yetzira, of Malchus, of Yetzira, Besara achidon, they get hooked up, the klippas, on the hair, they attach themselves to the hair, betufra achidon, and the nails. Ayin sham. Kidua bepirush v'asas tzipana, as it's known in the Pirush, where it speaks about the woman that is taken in captivity, it says that she should make her nails. And this is the shoresh of the idea of this Goren, of this threshing floor, or otad, of the thorn bush. Begamatri Yud Dalid, which is the Zohar says, otad is Gematria 14. Aleph Tes Dalid Shamaka. Why? That's the hand, but that's the end, already the hand of Yetzirah. The nails, that's where it becomes already harsh judgments, powers of Egypt, and so on and so forth. The Meshama Chitzayne Mekablam, the extraneous forces, they receive their vitality. Mepchenes Gevurah is the Nukva the Yetzirah. From the Gevurahs of Nukva of Yetzirah. Chesed would never allow this to happen, because Chesed doesn't splinter into such minuscule pieces, so it's always closer to the source. But on the other hand, that's because, why does Chesed not splinter? Because it's lovey-dovey energy. It's not intense, and that's why it doesn't. So it is a mila to it, but there's a chisaron to it as well, because it doesn't have that passion. The kedusha hanoiflim b'chenas psoilus, that what falls in a level of psoilus, k'moshi yizbar. V'zau shama is what it says. Tochazi, come and see. Mitzray kula chakima. They're very wise. Vatam mishum de sutter de gevurah nafki kama chelen. They knew that from the left side comes where all that gevurah, all those armies come. Pirish b'chenas koiches v'oiros l'chalakim rabim. They knew from the right side nothing is coming to them, because things are too expansive there. But on the left side is where you have these spurts. And these spurts are divided like a shower to become little drizzle. And from there can the klippas receive. Dargan al dargan, many levels. Ad the moti le dargan tatan the Yetzira, until it translates to the lowest level of Yetzira. Umisham nimshach la'asiyah. And from there its power comes down into the world of Asiyah, to this world. L'pchenes chitzaynius hakelim, to the external vessels. Ubehem evayadim mitzray, and that's where the Egyptians had their knowledge, in these external vessels of Asiyah, and that's where they were able to pull energy through their sorcery. And they had all their sciences, their astrology, and all these powers was once it translates all the way at the bottom. There's like a gazillions light years away from its source. But yet, over there they can manipulate, over there they can channel, over there they can empower. They had an understanding of the source of where the Ashpah comes. Of the Gevurah of holiness. They knew the secrets. They knew the source of the Esser spheres of Klipa, which in them, the divine light is hidden beside Golus HaShechina. That's the meaning that the Shechina is in exile, because points of godly energy are stuck, so to speak, trapped in these ungodly places. So they knew their source. The problem was that while Yaakov was alive, the whole system was very, very controlled by Yaakov. Yaakov is an Atzilus. Yaakov is way, way, way above them. They're in the end of the world of Asiya. Yaakov is an Atzilus. And as long as the whole world kind of, when Yaakov is alive, things are being operated kind of like it is in the world of Atzilus. Because you have a person physically in this world who is living in Atzilus. In Atzilus, there's no disconnect, because everything in Atzilus is perfectly unified with God. So since Atzilus itself is unified with the Eibishter, and when Yaakov is alive, we're still in a state of Atzilus. There is a Atzilus presence even in this world. So the Chayos, the energies are not susceptible to be disconnected. So even though there will be some life going down to them, it's very weak, because in general, the entire creation, the cosmos, are very deeply connected to their source. As everything is really unified to its source, everything is within the godly, everything is within the holy. Once Yaakov passed away, it means that we're not operating from the mode of Atzilus, we're operating from the modes of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Once you disconnect from Atzilus, on those levels, it's the Chayos can get easier, distorted, and rechanneled into the Klippas in a much greater flow. That's why, as long as Yaakov was alive, their Gevurahs. In other words, even though Gevurah creates the crumbs and the energies, but it's more controlled where it's going, because everything is kind of still fitting with the Eibishter's desire where God wants it. When the tzaddik is gone, the worlds kind of drift away. That's the idea that he's explaining. The Yaakov Kayim, they understood. Hine Amar Azal, it says, Yaakov Avinu loy meis, Yaakov doesn't die. So what does that mean? It means that Yaakov is Atzilus. Atzilus doesn't die. That means in Atzilus there's no klipa, there's no disconnect. So mitzad Yaakov, mitzad the world of Atzilus, when Yaakov is the Nasi Hador, when Yaakov is alive, there's no room for death. There's no room for any klipa. Klipa is called death. There's no room for anything that's disconnected. So they can't have any power. Yaakov is the world of Atzilus. And since he's and what's Atzilus? Atzilus is dominated by Chachma. What's Chachma? Bittul. Bittul means everything is connected to the Eibishter. And that's why his name is Yaakov, Yud Ekev. That he carries the Yud of Chachma all the way down to the heel. Yaakov can't die. In Chachma there's no death, because Chachma is Bittul. Bittul, when you bottle to the Eibishter, then the Eibishter is present. When the Eibishter is present, there's no death, there's no interruption, there's also no pirud, there's no separation. Ki b'Atzilus amru, because in Atzilus it says the Iu v'chiyu v'gamu echad. He and his spheroids are one. He and his emanations, he and his kalim, he and his garments are one. Hakol b'b'chenes elokus. Everything is still in a state of elokus. Ve'ein sham makar v'shoirish liyanikas hachitzayim. So there's no way where the chitzayim can enter the eternal. Klal, kamosh hakasav lo yugur chara, that evil can't exist. Lo yugur b'mugurcha, they can't live with you. Since in Atzilus the Eibishter is everywhere, they can't live there. The ein ra yored mamayla klal, and from above there comes no ra. So therefore, there's no space for for evil to plug in. They don't have an outlet. That's the point. They don't have an outlet over there. In the world of Bria, that's where Klippas can begin to plug their wire. They can wire into Bria. Because the truth of the unity of God that's felt in Atzilus is not felt anymore in Bria. Bria is already a creation. Because there is a partition between Atzilus and Bria. Hanikra Pargud, it's a partition. And that filter makes the world of Bria feel already separate. Therefore, in Bria, they can plug their plug-in. Like we see that he says, Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, when he went up, I heard from the other side of the Pargud. That means there is a Pargud, there is a partition. There's a curtain. Even though in the world of Atzilus, the Chitzainim can't plug in, ultimately, you have to say that eventually from Atzilus comes Bria, and from Bria will come Yetzir, and from there will be. So it will, but still, as long as Atzilus is dominating, it can now be in Yeprinas Piru des Chalkos, the Gevurah Salyonis Atzilus. Atzilus has that power of Gevurah in Atzilus that splinters. Eventually there will be Yanika Gamla Esasvirus de Klipa. Eventually there will be Yanika to the 10 spheres of Klipa, that's Yetzirah Vasiyah. But where will it really take place? From Bria and onward. In other words, from Atzilus, it can spit. It can, because it's so intense, it can shoot out energy, which later crumbs into and eventually, so it's a far more disconnected state of eventually energy getting to the klippas. From Bria, it's already more of a direct communication. It doesn't need so much metamorphosis and transformations, because in Bria is already a state of disconnect. So it allows for complete disconnect. Because even the holiness of Bria is already disconnected, because Bria means it's a creation. It feels itself as something already. So it's already not experiencing the Ebershter's truth. It's not perfect bittul in Bria. So therefore, it can serve as a source for the chitzainim. It can mix good and bad. In Bria, it's still mostly good. The Eitz Hadas, it says, starts in Bria, where it's mostly good and a little bit of bad. But Yetzirah, once it gets down to Yetzirah, it's Chetziyah Toiv, Chetziyah Ra, half good, half bad. Ubasiyah, once it gets down the world of Asiyah, Rubai Ra, which goes to Beitz Chaim and Dalamev. Zel Sha'amar, and this is what it says, the Istaklu Chatumi Mitzrayim. So the sorcerers of Mitzrayim looked to Cholzim and the Yaakov came as long as Yaakov was alive. What does it mean when Yaakov is alive? You have an Atzilus figure here. That means in this figure, the world over here was operating like it is in Atzilus. Because you had a physical human being who was living in the consciousness of Atzilus. Where the worlds are totally one. No one from Atzilus, no one can rule over his children. Because as the world down here is now being operating based on the rules of Atzilus, there's no Ra. So Jews can't be hurt. From the Eitz Hadas, from above the Eitz Hadas of Bria, there is no Ra. From Bria is where Ra starts. But from above Bria, there is no room for any Ra. So as Yaakov being here as Baal Olam Atzilus, that's why Chazal mean Yaakov loy meis. Yaakov doesn't die. Meaning there's no misa, there's no disconnect from wherever Yaakov is. But the Chachmei Mitzrayim saw that they have a source, a spiritual source. They knew that they have 10 spheres of klipa. They knew they're going to have power over the Jewish people. They couldn't figure it out because they tried every time and they had no access, because while Yaakov was alive, they weren't getting a signal. In other words, they couldn't plug in order to take dominance over them. Calls him to the Yaakov Kayim etamano, because when Yaakov is in, there is no Ra descending from above, and therefore they couldn't access any energy that can give them power, chas v'shalom, to hurt Yidden. Even the mess Yaakov, as soon as Yaakov passed away, chadu, they were happy. V'staklu ma yehi b'soifei. They looked what's going to be in the end. What does that mean? Because they looked at the channeling of energy, and they realized that as it gets down lower, it becomes murky enough for them to be able to use that as a power, chas v'shalom, to take the Eibishter's power and misuse it, chas v'shalom, for evil. Once they saw Yaakov died, meaning the light of Atzilus ends. That's what the parsa is. Atzilus ends, and now you're in Bria. So Yaakov's passing meant that we closed the chapter of Atzilus in this world. And now the world is not tapping into Atzilus. We're now kind of just on the outer surface of existence of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Because the Shvatim are from Bria, they're not from Atzilus. So there's no more Atzilus presence in this world. Ve'ena oras Yaakov d'Atzilus meir bebria. And the lights of Atzilus are not shining in Bria. Rak al yedei tzimtzum. He is coming through, but only through a contraction. V'sham yesh makom v'shoyresh yenika l'chitzayim. It's like coming through a partition. And that's where the chitzayim have already they have the external, the powers of darkness have an approach. They have already, they can hack it. Gamke. Hashem gave them power. They saw what's going to happen in the end. They knew that as it's descending, they're going to get extra power. Yisroel, when they'll be able to enslave the Jewish people. When it's in Bria, it's still only a little bit bad. As it's evolving, it's going to become half bad, half good. So in Yetzirah, it's going to be far more energy is going to be made available. That is chas v'sholem usable for the negative. When the time we'll get down to the world of Asiya, there is a big piece of pie for them. Until they'll be able to, down here, have a shlita over the Jewish people, mamish ba'olam hazeh hagashmi gamkein, in this physical world. By klippas, since one opposing the other, here's the interesting thing. In Kedusha, the higher you go, the more intense it becomes. In Klippa, the lower you go, because the further away from the source, the more the klippas become powerful. Because the more the energy is taken away from its source, the more it can be misinterpreted, the more it can be construed and fadreit. It has more tkifos. The nikra Gevurah is kashas, it becomes real Gevurah kashas. Different than Gevurah's kasha. Before we learned Gevurah's kashas, Hashem's essential power of Gevurah. This is real harsh Gevurahs as it's chas v'shalom being now implemented in very, very dark things in this world. That the man of Klippa can then have power over the man of Kedusha. They looked at what's going to be at the end. They looked all the way downstream. What's going to come from the Gevuras of Nukva of Yetzirah, we said earlier, from the nails, from Shehu Soif Hamshachas Ha'or Ma'olam Abriya, the end of the Hamshach of the lights from Olam Abriya, for who are Nikra Goren Atad, and that's called the hand. Atad is the hand. They saw from that hand, from the Goren of Atad, the threshing ground of Atad, of the thorns, Shu Gematria Yad, that's where they're going to have power. That's why when they would come, Yaakov died, then they came to this threshing field, Ha'ata, the Gevurah the Dina. They came to this place which is full of dinim. Shalita Atad begamatria Yudal, the Zohar says, which is Gematria 14. Kamashakosov say Yad Hagdola, the great arm. Pidish Atad zeh. What this means? This thorn. This is a tree. Elon Srak. It's a, what kind of tree is it? It's a fruitless tree, a barren tree. She'ena moitzi peiris klal. It doesn't produce anything. Because it's so dry. It's a very dry tree, so therefore it can't produce any fruit. That's because usually tzomeach is associated with water. That's where it grows. But everything is 4 yesoides. So those trees that have more dryness to them, because they have an element of fire a little more intense, they don't produce anything. The trees that are more watery, they have more tzomeach in them. Those that are more fiery have less tzomeach. So these are, they're drier. Fire is dry. Shamach mazenes yabish mioid became very dry. Umepnei heder kol achluchos. Because of the lack of all wetness, it doesn't grow anything. The ilan zeh, basically, what's a tree? A tree is a channel to take the moisture in the earth and to produce fruits. But this can't do it because it's too dry, so it can't. It's like a dried up channel. It can't allow. The ilan zeh nikra atad, and the tree that's called atad, hu agarua mikol ilanos. It's the worst of all of them. It's the most driest of all of them. Atruk in a boim. Ikemavua b'mashal, like it's stated in the mashal. Yutam ben Yerubel. I didn't get a chance to check this up. It's again Sefer Shoftim. Tes Yudalid. It was a mashal over there where he says, Ad asher amru ha'etzim ela atad. The trees said to the atad tree, Lech ata umloich aleinu. You go and be king over us. And they said, and he said to them, if in true you're going to anoint, let fire come out from the atad, and may it eat the trees. They have all these interesting stories in Shoftim. Let's check it out. Just a minute. I didn't get a chance to check this out. Tes Yodalit. What is this story of? Here we go. Shoftim. Tes Yudalit, something about so he tells them a whole story. What happened was like this. All the inhabitants of Shechem and all of Beit Milo gathered together, and they went and crowned Avimelech as king by the plain of the monument which was in Shechem. They told Jotham, so he went and stood atop Mount Gerizim and raised his voice and cried out. He said to them, listen to me, O inhabitants of Shechem, so that God may listen to you. The trees went to anoint a king over themselves. They said to the olive tree, reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, shall I cause my richness to cease, whereby God and men honor themselves through me and go to wave over the trees? I'm such a great tree, I don't want to be king over the other trees. I don't want to be. Then the tree said to the fig tree, you go and reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, shall I cause my sweetness and my godly produce to cease and go to wave over the trees? Then the tree said to the grapevine, you go and reign over us. But the grapevine said to them, shall I give up my vintage that gladdens God and men and go wave over the trees? Then all the trees went to the thorn and said, you go and reign over us. The thorn said to the trees, if with honesty do you anoint me as a king over you, then come and take shelter in my shade. But if not, then may a flame come forth from the thorn and consume the cedars of Lebanon. So this is a whole story taking place. And what he was trying to tell them was, you're getting the wrong guy, I guess, for your king. This guy is a thorn and whatever. I don't know the whole story, but this is what he's saying. So that's a story. So why are they going? The idea is, why is he saying let the fire go out? Because that's the nature of the atad. It's all it has is fire, very little moisture. It's very dry, which in a tree it's not too good on your resume. That you're very dry. It's the worst of all trees. Gematria yad. Atad means the hand. It's the driest hand of the Eibishter, so to speak. It's where the Gevurahs become very hanimshach megvuras the kedusha. It's coming from the Gevurahs of holiness. Gevurahs the nukva the yetzira shenikva yad. The Gevurahs of the feminine malchus of yetzira, that's called the hand. The kashanimshach derep b'chinas hatzipernayim. When it goes through the nails, lechitzayim canal ukamaymer betufro chidin, like we said earlier, that they hold on to the nails. Nikra atad. By the time in other words, once it's klipa, it's already called a thorn bush. All that's left over is just intense Gevurah from fire. There's no light and there's no energy from the supernal chesed. All it has is a burning power to destroy. This is a sign. Earlier we said Gevurah, intensity, gives life, gives energy, gives... It's like, you can marry a very mellow person and never have a fight with them. But there's nothing there. Like, so you can marry someone that's intense, but then there's so Aish is good, but when it's only biting, when all is left is only the thorn bush of it, without any of the Maila of Aish, that's when you end up with the powers of Mitzrayim, of just powers of evil and shteching powers, thorns, but nothing else to it. They came to the Goren Atad, which is hand. As I mentioned in the beginning of the class, because of the hand. The chitzonim that are received from Gevurah become very intensified. They can have shlita even on, and they cause a fire in the Beis HaMikdash. That's the idea. One, the power of Kedusha versus the power of Klippa. This is called the Gezerah of Dinim. Sheshoylet ala Kedusha. Okay, so what happened? So when the Mitzrim saw this place, they saw Gevurah coming out of the Atad. That's what it says. And it says, the Zohar says, why is it called Atad? Because just like a thorn has one thorn go out here, one thorn go out there, just like so a hand also has fingers going out. So he explains. I'm skipping the Zohar and I'm going into the continuation. Why is it called Evel Mitzrayim? We go on to the last page. The Evel Yisroel Miboyalei. This should have been the Evel, the morning of Yisroel. What does it say? They came to Goren Atad. The Gevurahs of Atzilus are too intense. Who can speak them? Who can bring them into Malchus? Remember, we said only a little bit comes into Malchus. Basically, it's going through the entire descent and the mitigating of these Gevurahs. Finally, at the bottom, it becomes this Atad, it becomes this thorn bush. And it's interesting, when the Eibishter reveals himself to Moshe, he's also revealing himself from the snare, because that's where that was burning them. So the Eibishter is saying, I'm there in that snare. Adamati legoyren atad, till he came to the goyren of this atad. Shemesham mekablu machitzonim gamkein. That's where the chitzonim receive. Ulezem etaretz akusha hu echad ma ichbeslan. What do we care that he got there? The bevadei hutzrich loidia shegiu ashvatim im Yaakov. With Yaakov legoyren atad, they arrived v'amdu sham and they stood. Kedei liroy selahasik shirish yenikas achitzonim atad zeh. They stopped over there because they were now recognizing that the Golus is going to start, and where the Chitzainim are going to take the whole Golus now is going to start from this Atad, from this thorn. They saw the gate Gevurah, Gevurah's kashas har b'ma'oid, the nafki ma'atad zeh that is coming out from this Atad. Ki yesh bo mibchenes toikev Gevurah's akashas. It has a very intense Gevurah's k'moy v'teitze eish min ha'atad. And what does it mean? It goes out like thorns. Inyan who he continues. Ki al derech mashal biyad agashim is just like a physical hand. Hine ha'gevurah v'akoyach hashanimtza biyad atzmo ubchenes koyach ha'yuli klolis. The power that's in a person's hand is a very general power. How does the power of a person's hand become specified to details? Through the fingers. The fingers allow. That's what makes a human be so delicate over an animal that has paws, doesn't have really fingers, so they can't specify their actions. So the same is with Gevurah. in order for it to become detailed, can only go through the fingers. And that's in order for there to be not just a general gullus, but a gullus that has not such good incidents in it. That's through the fingers of the... specified in all the details. That's why these harsh gevurahs that are coming from the Ashanikra Yad Nichlalu Tchila are first Nichlal Kulam Ba'atad. First they're in one Atad. And then they become individual thorns. In other words, all the Gezeros that happened later in Mitzrayim, they were first included in one Atad. They were looking at the whole Gullus and that Atad. Then the details that happen, these are all each individual prickly thorn, that each one is another kvetch. Each dry, a thorn is a very dry branch. Lahai sitra to this side. Venas caution become very hard. Lahare kol negem and actually kill someone if you big thorn. Vanofim rabim and bechol kuba, and in each kuba has many branches on their own. Kach mikol etzpa from every finger mischal can kama koiches pratim. Bezevachol itzpa salik bekama gevurin. They gazed at the hand of the Golos with all of its branches and sub branches. So this is where they stopped and they looked and imagine why they were looking and why they were mourning. They cried over there. If so. But here's where the whole Maayon turns around, because it was negative till now. Yisroel, it should have been Yisroel mebayale. It should have been an Avel. It should have been a mourning of Yisroel. Why is it ultimately the mourning of Egypt? What are we kicking up? But this is the secret. It's an amazing pasuk. Pasuk says the time that is given that man rules over man, but it's to his own disadvantage. What does that mean? It's to its own disadvantage. It's to its own darkness, its own downfall. That the Klippa rules over Kedusha, the powers of darkness rule over the powers of holiness, powers of light. And that's not, it's ultimately killing the Klippa while they're doing it. What's the real reason why the Gevurahs became so specified and so crumbed? So that they can be energy all the way down to the Chitzainim. That's because of the shattered. It is known that the 7 kings of Tohu shattered, which means the whole idea that there's sparks of holiness everywhere. The world of Tohu, which splintered also because Olam HaTohu was very intense. Everything is fixed through the name of Ma. So we have 6,000 years of Torah mitzvahs that we do, and we're doing them in all the details and sub-details of the world. That's why mitzvahs are so meticulous and so specified and so crumbed up into every little detail, because it has to get into all the crevices of the world to fix and to repair every detail. All the bad of Klipas Noiga is going to end. All that the Chitzainim swallowed, Yanika Mahakadusha, a deriving energy from holiness, Yoitzi Mehem Legamri, is going to go out from them completely. Like it says, Chayel Bola, they swallowed wealth, Vayechi Enu, they will vomit. In other words, everything that they swallowed, they will have to give back. They will, Ubola Hamaves, and evil will be eradicated forever. As Boloi Mepiv, the Eibishter says, I will take out what he swallowed from his mouth. In other words, even what he got, it will be taken back from him. Umemelo Yomusu, they will die on their own. Ki ein lem chayes mitzad atzmam, they have no more life on their own. V'zeu ma'amed azal lo asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishchait liyetzahara, like Sumalineni, whatever his name is. What's his name? I forgot already. Suleimani, yeah. The Eibishter is going to shecht him. It's already done. V'aynu gam keim asher kasev asher shala ta'adam b'lial achshav. It's what it says that the man, the negative man, rules ba'adam de kedusha of the man of holiness, hularala is to his own disadvantage. The good from the 288 sparks shanaflu bara the noiga that fell in the evil of noiga. When the bitter is over, they will automatically fall down. They will be lost. It's to his own disadvantage. His ruling over holiness is for his own disadvantage. Is the second. It should have been an avel to the Jewish people. It's really a avel to them. Why? Through this hesped, by the way, he says, while they were doing this eulogy at that place, this eulogy itself, meaning mourning the Galus, mourning that was going to happen, that itself was pained. When the Shvatim were pained, that pain itself, psychologically experiencing the future exile, was already pulling out the nitzutzes from them. It was already drawing out their energy. Like it's going to be when Mashiach comes. This is the demise of Egypt. That's what Yosam says. The fire will go out from the Otad. Here's the thing. They will burn themselves with their own fire. That's what happens. They end up burning it like they shot down their own plane now. You see? But they just did that now also. They wanted to shoot now back over here, and they shot their own plane with their own, it wasn't their plane, but it was sadly a lot of their own citizens. They didn't kill any Americans, they killed themselves in their own fire. After everything is destroyed, there's nothing left. The Rasha is killed by his own bad. The Gevurah will kill the Rasha after the Biurei, like also the other guy, Begdadi, when they came to kill him, his own vests that he prepares suicide bombs, he wore it and he kills himself with that vest. See, they end up killing themselves, destroying themselves. The word bakoyach is 2 times yad, your hand. Yada yamin shekoil koyach hayad asmoilis gamke. When the left will be included in the right. The left doesn't want to be included in the right. So they're kicking and screaming still. But they're going to be included in the right. There's no shirish for the chitzainim, only from the left side. But once the left is included in the right, there's no more koyach. They have no energy. That's what it says over here in the Zohar. The Yidden saw the great hand, which includes the other, which pulls that hand back into Kedusha, and there's no more chayas to the klipa. So it's interesting. I'm thinking about this. Why at this current time there's raging fires I spoke about and I mentioned in Australia, and also in California. Not now, Baruch Hashem, but. So first of all, what burns? Burns are these dry brush. This. So it's interesting. I was just in Australia. I don't want to chas v'shalom start up with the Australians, but you see that initially Australia, how was Australia settled? They sent prisoners there. It was from the very beginning. It was created with a Gevurah. It settled from a Gevurah place. And it's also like the last place in the world, kind of. It's like down and under, they call it. So, in a sense, and that's why it has a lot of dryness to it. We're talking about this thorn bush as it represents in Seder Ishtalshalos, burning itself out, and then it's gone anymore. So, as we're standing now right by Mashiach, so we're setting fire, like the Rebbe says, the walls of Golos are on fire. The brush has like burnt itself out. It shouldn't be chas v'shalom any more fires were done, but the physical manifestation of it. And now there is no more galus there anymore. And it could be in that physical. I don't want to say this as a thing, but it would be interesting if it's related to it. And there should and fartik that when I just feel bad for all those cute koalas and kangaroos and people that were harmed and all sheep, a lot of sheep. Very sad, a lot of sheep. So the fire should be done. We burnt out all the klippas, nothing left of it anymore. And the klippas have already fallen. There's no one left anymore. They're done. You see that they lost their power. This week they lost their power because they were such balagaivas, and they thought, and now they lost their whole face because they're embarrassed. They're mamish embarrassed. The Iranians, they're so embarrassed because they had to shoot these 15 missiles and not kill anybody. They looked stupid. They came out looking stupid. They came out looking weak. So they're the last klipa that's out there that's supporting evil. Because Hamas, Syria, Hamas, Hezbollah, it's only Iran that's still supporting them. Everybody else turned around already. There's no one left. Iraq is gone. All the other ones are gone. It's the klippas over there and the left over here that's supporting them. That's it. There's nothing left. And Europe's still and they're also changing. It's amazing. It's awesome. Awesome stuff. It's a lot of words. Yeah.